Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Good morning, DamFam. Hello, kids and cubs. Welcome to Season 5 and episode number 817 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada. I hope you enjoyed the little bit of Christmas music there that we had there jingling on. Thank you, Restream, for supplying that for us. Hey, it's Santa Beaver Eve, everyone. I hope everybody is having a good time. As you can tell, I'm feeling and looking significantly better than yesterday. So, of course, the reason I'm looking better is because of, what I'm wearing, of course. I won't say that I magically became physically more beautiful overnight. Today, recording day, is Wednesday, December 24th, 2025. As I said, Santa Beaver Eve. And I know you've all been good kitties and cubbies. So I would expect lots of lovely things under your tree this year. All right. Let's see. Totally different intro this morning, I guess, right? I am your host, the Eager Beaver, or Santa Beaver, today. And not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. It's a nice, well, it's another great day here at the Beaver Lodge. And I was hoping we might have a white Christmas a little bit, because yesterday when we were doing the show, it had just started snowing, but it snowed for about only like 20 or 35 minutes. And, not a lot, just like, a smattering of flakes. So, so far still looking like it will be a green Christmas here. Which is a bit of a shame. I like a white Christmas. And it looked like we were going to have one this year, but denied at the last minute. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. How is your mental health doing today, kids and cubs? I am doing better? Question mark. Yesterday was a bit of a challenging day, emotionally, for me. I was a little, how would I put it, run down. I guess I've been seeing some comments from some of the kids out there, saying, gee, you must be really run down or exhausted, or, you deserve a break or something. And I am. I really, really, really am. And I knew it up here right? But it sort of hit me yesterday. Um, I was still running a bit of a low grade fever. Still had some sweats last night. As you can tell, still congested. My voice isn't completely back. But as you can tell in my face, my eyes are not, you know, droopy anymore. I've got more color in my face, definitely much more pep in my voice. But yesterday, as you know, at the end of the show, I was fading, and I was fading really fast. Um, and last night, we were decorating the little Christmas tree that my Beaver sweetie got for me, and we were about halfway through the decorating, and my body had been sore all day long, like it is normally when you have the flu. Sometimes you get stiff and sore, but it just started to get really, really, really bad. And at one point, I just couldn't even stand. Um, so, I had to lie down on the sofa and, intermittently, and then, like for about 2, 3 minutes, then pick up a decoration, put it on the tree, and then go back and lie on the sofa for another 2, 3 minutes. Uh, Went to bed, and I was in a lot a lot of pain, almost crying. So much I was in pain. I will not say excruciating pain because I have actually experienced excruciating pain and it was nothing like it, but still pain that would make you cry, especially if you've been having it for like, several days in a row and it's just been relentless. But yesterday it just sort of like really came to a peak. Um, and I guess given that I was feeling all that pain, and I think yesterday was day 5 or day 6 of this flu. Uh, I'm starting to have enough of it. So I wasn't. I didn't have all the faculties that I needed to really to get through the day. And at one point, my Beaver sweetie called me in the afternoon and wanted to know what I wanted to do for dinner. And we don't, because we're not hosting and we're going away for the holidays. We're just trying to finish off what it is that we have in the house right before you go away for a little bit, rather than buying new stuff. But we're at this point. We're at the point where we had 2 days left here, and we did too good a job. Let's put it of making sure we clean out the fridge. That it's like all the meat that we have is frozen and needs to be defrosted. And since we're out on the phone at 4 o'clock talking about that, there's no way the meat would be defrosted in time to have supper at a normal time. So we should probably buy something. And we're literally even in terms of like vegetables, it's like, okay, well, we do have some vegetables, but nothing that goes together, sort of. Like, like try to think of, like, for example, we have like parsnips and beets, for example, and it's like, we could have beets, we could have parsnips, but I'm not too sure that parsnips and beets at the same time, right? So we're like we're going to have to MacGyver something together if we're just using what we have at home. So I'm trying to convince my Beaver sweetie to maybe pick up some fresh meat so we don't have to spend hours defrosting something, and maybe some type of vegetable that's not frozen that we have in the freezer. Um, because they sell us this bag and they say it's mixed vegetables, but it's like 97% cauliflower and broccoli, and there's like 7 carrots, 7 baby carrots in the whole bag. So if we could have something else, that would be nice. Uh, and then he asks what, and by that time, that's all the contribution I can make. It's like in my head, I have scanned the entire inventory of the fridge and of the freezer, and I know what's in there, and I know what we have, and I know what we don't have. I know what we have in cans, and in boxes, and in in the cupboards, and all that kind of stuff. And we just do not have the elements together to make a cogent meal that doesn't look like we just slapped together whatever it is that we have and tried to make it fit. Let's put it that way. um, uh, and doing all of that part, I had exhausted my resources. Don't ask me for ideas. I really have none. This is where I'm passing the baton over to you for you to run with it. And he had no ideas either. So we were sort of stuck at an impasse, and I got impatient. Uh, um, not aggressively so, but I got impatient, which caused a slight moment of unpleasantness, which was my fault. I own it, and for which I apologized later, not in the moment, because I was again N my brain was moving really slowly, so I was saying things and then it would, like, click in half an hour later, "Oh my god, that was really dumb," or, "That was insensitive. I need to go fix that." And normally, that little thing clicks in before I say stuff. So, I don't say that kind of stuff. Um and then, my Beaver sweetie got home, and, there was, something, that he needed, to go get checked, at a walk-in clinic, or an emergency clinic, after-hours clinic, just to be sure. So he got an appointment. So he basically came home and dropped off the stuff and said, "I need to go again, but I don't know when I will be back." And I said, "Okay, well, that's fine. I'll just start preparing tomorrow's show while you do that." And I did a couple things around the place that I needed to do, and then as I was about to sit down to start preparing the show, he was already back, and I thought that for sure he'd be gone. These types of clinics, you go, you sit in the waiting room, you're there for about an hour, sometimes a little more. But I had suggested that if he went early, he might, you know, get in quickly because order of arrival and that type of stuff. And he seemed to be under the impression that it was they call everybody at the after hours clinic that can get in at the admittance, and then they all come in, and then they guess they do triage and whatnot, determine. So arrival, that your arrival doesn't really matter in terms of the time you arrive and where you are until you get seen. But turns out that did matter. So he did go early and was seen quickly, and he was already back just as I was about to start. And he asked me, "Are you pleasantly surprised?" And again, I said something really stupid. Said, "Definitely surprised, but not pleasantly so, because I was just about to start work and I'm getting interrupted." And, which means he is now back, which means we're going to eat and decorate the tree and whatnot. And then I won't be able to start preparing the show after all that is done, which means, now we're now looking at, possibly not before 10 p.m. when I want to be in bed at 10 so I can do the show at 7. Uh, and I said, surprised, yes, but not pleasantly, which, again, didn't register in my head that that could be interpreted as, I am not pleased to see you, which is not true. I am always pleased to see my Beaver sweetie, and I'm always pleased to hear from him. But that didn't come out right. And about like half an hour later, I went up to him and says, I need you to know something. When and I explained it to him, is when I said, that I was not pleasantly surprised that you were already here. As I made it clear that what I meant is that I was not pleasantly surprised by the fact that the appointment didn't take as long, but not that I was not pleased to see him. And while I was trying to explain that, my eyes were welling up and I was on the verge of tears. Um, Again, hyper emotional state. Again, 6 days of sickness and pain and will bring you there. And fortunately, he was very understanding, but I can tell by his face when I apologized, the way that he felt, the relief I could feel leave his shoulders, that weight, that he did interpret that as me saying I was not pleased to see him, um, which was not the case. So yeah, um, I my mental health was a bit off yesterday, um, but not so off that I wasn't able to realize if belatedly that I was saying and doing stupid or insensitive things unintentionally, inadvertently, but just just not time to pre-filter what I'm going to say and to be responsible and caring and loving as I normally am. So yeah, it was a bit of a rougher day yesterday, and I definitely need a vacation. This beef is tired, man. So looking forward to it because we have one planned. February 1st is the day. February 1st is the day. Oh man. And if I'm making a pre-New Year's resolution, is probably don't wait 5 to 6 years before the next vacation. That's too long. So yeah. Again, thankfully, I have got the most understanding and loving and caring beaver sweetie in the entire world, and probably in in the entire history of humanity. So, and he was understanding, and he did forgive me and accept my apology for being insensitive, even though, what I said, what he had thought I'd said was not what I said and not what I meant. I did very easily see how anybody very reasonably could interpret it that way because I was careless and imprecise with my words. So, yeah. You got to be careful, especially when you're in a little bit of a mood, especially when there's a lot of pain and stuff, or you're sick or you're under the weather. It gets a little easy to get a little snippy and short with people, and especially people who are nearby and trying to help. And you should never um, um, be rude to the people who show up to help. So, yeah, yeah, wasn't I wasn't at my best yesterday. So, yeah, a little bit of a mea culpa here. I'm not afraid to admit these the uglier and darker sides of me when we do these portions in the morning checking in with mental health. I try to project an image of being friendly and welcoming and kind and understanding and all of that kind of stuff. And but I'm not always successful at it, kids and cubs. It takes a certain amount of discipline and dedication, um, you know, to be the person I want to be, but not always am, because we're all human and we're not perfect, right? And we slip up. So, um, but like I said, being very clear on who I want to be as a person and what type of energy I want to give off, and what type of values I want to promote, and how I want people to feel when they're around me. Um, that it matters. Almost everything that I do in that area is a very conscious decision that has had a lot of thought put into it prior to. Um, so yeah, when I'm careless, or when I slip, or when you know, um, uh, I take it a little hard, maybe a little harder than I need to, but I do take it hard because that's really not who I want to be. So I try my best not to, and when it does happen, I do my best to try to realize it as quickly as possible, and then to make amends. But yeah, so a bit of a rougher day yesterday. Uh, I'm feeling better today in that sense. I don't seem to have this dark cloud of negativity around me, um, or even that feeling of deep fatigue. Now, of course, it's early in the day. That might catch up with me a little later because I'm not fully better yet. But this morning, feeling substantially better than I have uh, over the past 4 or 5. And I will take that. That's a win. All right, kids and cubs. I see that there's some chat already about something that we are going to talk about uh, in the show. Okay. Wow, you guys are really into stuff. Kit Saucy, man colds are the worst. Yeah, indeed. Kit Jillian here. It's very weird to feel that bitchy about every little thing. I know, right? Especially when it's not your natural personality. I mean, don't get me wrong. Um, you know, I am bitchy, but but usually it's all in good fun. Uh, you know, not with not with an objective to be cutting, right, or to hurt someone. Especially in personal interactions. Kit Tabby, we all have our moments. Yeah, indeed, but. Yeah, they are moments I would rather not have. They do not fit with my image of myself. Let's put it that way. All right, kids and cubs. Today we are going to talk about a little bit of new stuff, but hopefully have a little fun as well because tis the season, and just go through, maybe catch up on a couple of stories we missed as well along the way. Some kids had a couple of suggestions of stuff that I'll see if I can work in to the show, and let's just play it by ear today, except for the one thing that we have prepared. Now, I know kids and cubs, that this is probably not going to be welcome on Santa Eve because I have a video of Pierre Poilièvre in an interview. Uh, but, I know you're recoiling. I know you're recoiling. The sound of his voice. I know. Trust me, I know. But, if you trust me, it is for a purpose, because I showed you, I think it was last week or about a week before, Pierre's interview with Rosemary Barton, and how bad it was. Pierre had the opportunity to do not one, but two more of these year-end interviews, one with Vashi Kapelos of CTV's Question Period, and the other with Donna Friesen of Global News. And we had gotten a preview of the interview with Vashi Kapelos, and it was very clear that that one did not go well for Pierre Poilièvre. And I didn't present the clip at the time because I wanted to wait for the whole interview, because I didn't want to present just that clip out of context, not knowing what the full interview was. Well, I took the time to watch the interview. I watched all three of them. And I don't have anything from Donna Friesen's for you today. I might have that on another show. Because that one is well worth watching too, and that one didn't get a lot of attention because it's global. It's like number 3 on the 3 English language national English language networks, but that one is well worth watching too. But when you look at all three of them, the thing that struck me is that Pierre had not one, not two, not three chances to do this interview. Whatever point, damage control point he had, right? Because you have to remember the context of this one, particularly the first one with Rosemary Barton, comes pretty soon after, right? He's lost on Michael Ma. So that's 3 MPs total, with rumors circulating that the fourth one, Aaron Gunn, he might be losing because Aaron Gunn might want to seek the leadership of the BC Conservative Party. um, which everybody would turn around and say, well, he wasn't abandoning Pierre. He didn't have a problem with Pierre. He just had a better opportunity. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you also have to remember that Aaron Gunn is a first-time MP in this last election, and really wanted the nomination in that riding so he could become a federal MP. And now that he's a federal MP, and he's been a federal MP for a couple of months, of course, he thought that when he would become a federal MP, that he would be in government, and maybe he thought he would be Minister of Indigenous Affairs or something. Um, those who know Aaron Gunn knows that he doesn't have a particular appreciation or fondness uh, for First Nations, to put it mildly. Um, he is not in government, and he's had the experience of a few months under Pierre's leadership, and mm, might want to go somewhere else. Just, just saying, not exactly a vote of confidence in Pierre's ability to either run the party successfully or even win uh, government next time around, should he still be leader next time around. Aaron doesn't, it would seem, is thinking about maybe not placing his bet on Pierre for an opportunity to be in government. Aaron might have decided that he has more confidence in his own abilities to form a government if he became leader of the BC Conservatives, which has, interestingly, been prompting stories that perhaps BC Premier David Eby would like to go early, for example, because, the last election in British Columbia yielded a very close result. And now that there is, how would you put it, lots of turmoil throughout the entire conservative movement, and the BC Conservatives would be looking for a new leader, well, you know, that could create an opportunity to take advantage of something that's not, working well for others. Uh, and we're getting some contradicting stories because 2 days ago, in the Canadian press, uh, Wolfgang Deppner, cool name, by the way, um, writes, "It should have been a very bad day for David Eby's government, but on December 3rd, the morning after the pending closure of the pulp mill in Crofton, British Columbia, was announced with the loss of 350 jobs, the political focus was on the leadership saga and the opposition BC Conservatives, as 20 of the party's MLAs called on then-leader John Rustad to quit. It was emblematic of the chaos in the Conservative ranks over the past year, which Eby acknowledged has been politically beneficial to his NDP government. But he rejected the suggestion that he got a hall pass in 2025 after eking out a one-seat majority in the October 2024 election. Quote, if that was a hall pass, then I guess I'll never ask to go to the bathroom again in school, Eby said in a year-end interview. It was a very eventful and very challenging set of sessions, and it is a huge piece of work that we have to do as British Columbians in this very consequential moment for our province. It has been a tough year for Eby with strained NDP relations with First Nations, unions, and environmentalists. But on the Conservative side, Rustad saw his ranks in the legislature reduced from 44 to 39 as MLAs lost confidence in a leadership marked by defections, claims of blackmail, and caucus room mobile phone checks in an attempt to find those members leaking information. Conservatives, in other words, were busy drawing attention to themselves and away from other issues. Rustad has since resigned with Trevor Halford installed as interim leader while jostling begins for a leadership race. Quote, a lot of people assume that the conservative chaos is helpful, Eby said. On one level, it certainly is politically, but I think ultimately some of what we've seen come out of the Conservatives is quite corrosive in terms of the work we have to do in this province. The Conservative chaos has raised the question of whether Eby would try to take advantage by calling an early election. Eby said British Columbians would go into an election if the opposition succeeded in blocking legislation. He pointed to his government's decision to declare the recent vote on the North Coast transmission line a confidence measure. It passed by one vote with the help of Speaker Raj Chouhan. Quote, but we're not seeking an election here, EB said when pressed about the likelihood of a snap election in 2026. Quote, I also want to say we're ready if it's necessary. We're fundraising, we're debt free, we're ready to go if we have to, but British Columbians don't want an election. Okay. Interesting. So that was 2 days ago. But according to the Vancouver Sun, Vaughn Palmer, published about 13 hours ago, Premier David Eby ended a troubled years for his NDP government by toying with the possibility of calling a snap election, all while insisting the scenario was not on his wish list for 2026. Quote, none of us wants an election, but we will go to an election because we have to protect and defend families and give them an opportunity in this province, he told Alec Lazimbi of Post Media. We don't want an election, but we will be ready for an election. The NDP leader turned his party's state of readiness into a boast in an interview with Wolfgang Deppner of the Canadian Press. That's what I mentioned a little earlier. In one year-end interview, the premier suggested that the province could be plunged into an election by accident. Quote, we have enough votes. I hope to be able to ensure that the government is stable and able to pass legislation, he told Emily Javeski of Vista Radio. Quote, but if anything were to happen, if a member was away for some reason or unable to dial in or whatever the challenge was, and the government lost a vote, then we would be into an election. Interesting. So yeah, even some mixed messages on that side. But yeah, interesting. Just a little side note there, whether or not they will go. There's lots of there's a few provinces in which people are wondering whether or not we would have early elections. Alberta is another one. Whether or not Danielle will call a snap election early in order to get away wipe the slate clean of all of those annoying and pesky, or as Danielle Smith would call them, frivolous recall petitions, because petitions are direct democracy and very, very important for the future of our province. If the petitions are on matters that Danielle Smith approves of, but if they are petitions that somehow go against her, then they are magically frivolous. So Danielle Smith, as you may have heard if you've been paying attention, is having fun playing with laws. You see, Danielle Smith is particularly lazy and doesn't like to legislate or govern. She likes to rule and dictate. So she's used the notwithstanding clause 4 times within the space of a month in order to attack transgender children and remove teachers' right to strike. And then she changed the laws, if you remember, with regard to citizens' initiatives for a referendum question. She changed them right after Mr. Lukasik filed his. So Mr. Lukasik had to get 300,000 signatures or something, or over 300,000 signatures in a certain space of time. And now she changed the rules for the Alberta separatists to require about 130,000 signatures with 4 full months to get them. Much more time, fewer signatures. Then she also changed the laws because, if you remember, the question that would go on a ballot had to be constitutional, couldn't be a question that would, if it was voted for and acted upon, result in anything unconstitutional. And well, if the question is, will you separate from Canada, and you're in Alberta, and you are entirely on treaty land, unceded treaty land, there's not a square millimeter of the province that is not, well then removing non-ceded treaty land from Canada away from the crown and making it its own thing probably would be unconstitutional, and therefore the question would be invalid. Well, that didn't help Danielle Smith because she wants the question to be asked, so she just removed that legal requirement for the question to be vetted constitutionally before it would be deemed admissible. So yeah, the way to go, Danielle. Thanks for that. And then she just, made a whole bunch of other little changes, like, for example, changing the cost of filing for Citizens Initiative from $500 to $25,000. But it's direct democracy, everyone, right? Citizens Initiative. Oh, and she also made it such that if you have to come up with $25,000 to file for the petition, you're not allowed to crowdsource or fundraise or whatnot to do that. You just have to pay that all from your own pocket. And while not everybody has $500 lying around for that, many more individuals have $500 lying around in order to be able to file a petition than 25,000. That kind of limits who it is that gets to ask or potentially compete to have a citizens initiative question. Interesting. But interestingly, she didn't change any of the requirements for recalls, because probably that would look very bad at the same time as filing petitions to recall. But if she calls an early election and then all those recall petitions sort of become moot because there's another election, and let's say after she does that, then she passes behind and then changes that law too to make the threshold higher so that the recall legislation that was introduced uh, for the purposes of removing mayors that don't agree with the UCP government and for the purposes of removing NDP MLAs only. Well, she needed to change that because it was like, how dare you? How dare you use direct democracy on me? So, yeah, early elections potential. But back to Pierre. Um, we're going to show you some clips from the interview with Vashi Kapelos. Um, and here, in the interview with Vashi Kapelos did that which I wish Rosemary Barton would have done in terms of really sticking to the line of questioning with regard to the departure of MPs. Because Rosemary asked once question, then pushed a little bit and asked a little bit again, and then um, moved on to other subjects. Now, to her credit, she picked 3 or 4 other subjects that Pierre also did not perform very well on because he has no plans. But Vashi Kapelos really, really stuck to it. Uh, and then later on in the interview, moved to another subject where she stuck it to him again. And I how would I, actually, you know what? That's not correct to say. I don't want to say stick it to him because that makes it look gives it a different tone. But she it's not stick it. He was trying to pivot away or weasel away or slither out from the question, and she just wouldn't let him. Basically, she was insisting on an answer, and he was insisting on not giving one. And when you see that type of dance happening, uh, because I have the feeling that these politicians prepare their answer and then they have a second one in case there's pushback, they're pressed, and then they don't really prepare if they are pushed a third time. Now they might be able to cleverly pick up another one, but when you're pushed a fourth or a fifth time, um, you usually don't have something for that. So you're either robot repeating yourself and not adding anything new, or you decide to add a few things that you're thinking of on the fly, which means you haven't had a time to think them through, and sometimes make some mistakes. And Pierre made a lot of them in this particular interview. So one of the moments I want to present to you is right off the bat in the interview, where she asks him a question that you could pretty much uh, be certain was going to come. And again, you would think he would have a slightly better answer, particularly since he's already had a chance to try it and it didn't work out well for him. You think that somewhere along the way he might have um, looked over his performance and decided, here's where he can clean a few things up. And I had to take a pass on because the interview was not great. So here's the first question that everyone could pretty much expect he would be asked, and here's how he answers it.
Start off. I have a number of questions on it.
I need to fix that because, whoa, something was not okay on the time there. So sorry for that, kids and cubs. All right.
And pipelines, but I do want to start off
Excellent.
on the political events of the last week. Can you tell supporters of your party who are watching right now that there will not be more MPs who leave the Conservatives for the Liberal Party?
Well, what I can tell them is that...
That would be a no. Right? That would be no, I cannot tell you that. When someone asks the question, can you tell me? And you go, well, what I can tell you is, then the answer is, you could just stop right there. The answer is no. You don't need to add anything. You don't need to go into this whole thing. The answer is no. Pretty simple. Can you tell me that no one else will leave your party? Well, what I can tell you is that, so you're telling me that you can't tell me that. There's nothing else to gain from that answer. Now, he's got, oh, what the hell just happened there? Okay, that was really weird. Sorry, kids and cubs. My entire screen just went black. I'm going to just, okay, I'm still on screen with you. Okay, nothing's weird on your end. Okay, only on my end. Okay. Jeez, oh my God, that was really weird. So yeah, the answer to that is no. We don't have to listen to the rest of the answer. That one, it is just no. He goes into the whole thing about, liberals unleashing crime and all that other stuff. All these people said that they campaign on this, and I don't know why they would want to join a party that's doing the exact opposite, right? Yes, because the liberals liberals don't care about housing and don't care about a solid economy and don't care about crime and don't care about all that. They're all there to do other things, right? They're there to make housing more expensive and food more expensive and crime more rampant, according to conservatives, right? That's the purpose of liberals, according to Pierre, is to make everything worse. Like this, to deliberately set out to make everything worse, right? No, they're not trying. He doesn't even offer them the good faith of actually trying to make things better, but just being so incompetent or bad at it that they end up making everything worse. No, liberals are intentionally trying to make everything worse. Is line here. So we can skip over that part. Then Vashi, however, really starts holding his feet to the fire very, very specifically. So she allows him, a couple of times to go off on his tangents. But then, she brings it back. And I have to say on this one, Vashi Capellas receives a lot of criticism. So does Rosemary Martin. But in this case here, running a very tight interview.
I didn't hear you say that you unequivocally don't think other MPs will leave for the Liberals. I asked because two Liberal ministers, Minister McKinnon, Minister Hodgson, have both intimated that there are others who have them. If MPs in your party were happy with you and your leadership, wouldn't they stay?
Well, I think the ministers you just mentioned, along with Mr. Carney, are trying to manipulate an undemocratic.
Again, not directly answering the question. Right? That was a yes or no. Well, the other guys are manipulating. Again, question is about him. Questions about him. And once again, as was the case for the interview with Rosemary Barton, Pierre is seemingly incapable of speaking about himself. Incapable, unwilling, whatever it is, he is not willing to do it. He just will not participate. He will not engage. Nothing. All right. So she asked them the question, right? And she points out she didn't hear a no to the first one. Question. Let's hear his full answer, and then how Vashi holds his feet to the fire.
Well, I think the ministers you just mentioned, along with Mr. Carney, are trying to manipulate an undemocratic majority that Canadians rejected that would drive up grocery prices, housing costs, and crime. Canadians voted against the rampant inflation Liberals have caused. They voted against out-of-control spending. They voted against the soft on crime laws and the open border immigration policies that Liberals have imposed. And if Mark Carney believes that he should have a majority to go ahead with the high-cost policies he's running on, then he should get that mandate from Canadians in an election, not through dirty backroom deals.
All right. So Pierre is back to his old lines about dirty backroom deals. Again, we need to point out once again that Pierre would not be where he is if it wasn't for dirty backroom deals. He has a compliance agreement with Elections Canada. That was a backroom deal, right? He lost his seat in Carleton, but managed to get another seat available, open to him, made available by Damien Currick. That was not a backroom deal, though, right? And then Matt Genereux wanted to cross the floor, allegedly, but is now instead going to retire from politics altogether, but has maintained his seat in the House of Commons for now until the spring, until after Pierre's leadership review is over, in exchange for, I guess, not being ended or ruined or destroyed in the media. Remember, Matt Genereux said, "Leave my family alone." So perhaps there is a link between those things. But yeah, that too was not a dirty backroom deal. And should Aaron Gunn decide to step aside to go run for the BC Conservatives, if Aaron Gunn does it in the same way that Jason Kenney did when he left to unite the right and then to gain the leadership of the UCP, if you remember, Jason Kenney didn't resign his seat in federal parliament while he spent the better part of a year and a half to 2 years doing all of that. So if Aaron Gunn decides that he is going to maintain his seat in the federal legislature while he's pursuing the job of becoming the leader of the BC Conservative Party and doesn't abandon his seat until he actually secures the other job. That's another Conservative that we are going to be paying salary and benefits for several months for not doing their job. And that would also not be another dirty backroom deal. No, Pierre doesn't believe in dirty backroom deals at all. He also believes that we didn't vote for a Liberal majority, but of course, I don't remember on the ballot where it was written, do you want a Liberal majority or minority? I'm pretty sure that everybody who voted Conservative voted for a Conservative majority. I don't understand why Pierre would believe that people who voted Liberal didn't vote for a Liberal majority. Oh yeah, it doesn't serve him. Oh yeah, of course, remember. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Let to that see how fast he holds his feet to the fire.
How is it his fault that people left your party? I can even understand the argument after one MP. 2 MPs. The third MP doesn't want to be in politics anymore after rumors that he was also going to cross the floor. At what point is it not about them and it about you? With great respect.
Well, with great respect, Mr. Carney has said that he wants to get a...
Once again, how is this his fault and not about you? With great respect. With great respect, Mark Carney, the question is about you, sir.
Majority, not by winning in a majority government election, but by making backroom deals.
Again, third time he mentions backroom deals. He mentioned it. We didn't show the full answer to the first question, but he mentioned it there. He's got backroom deals. He's got a couple of buzzy words that he just keeps on repeating and going back and back and back and back to. He literally, in this interview, becomes a robot.
In order to get floor crossers. And
but the Conservatives made backroom deals too.
Canadians specifically rejected a Liberal majority in the last election. The vast majority of voters voted against that majority because they knew that it would mean a higher cost of living, that they would be unsafe in their streets. And it is undemocratic through a series of backroom deals, Mr. Carney to try and concentrate more power and money in his own hands rather than allowing the Canadian people's decision to stand. So we believe in holding the government to account for the broken promises, but also proposing positive ideas that will make life more affordable and safer. That's what we've done for the session, and that's what we're going to be doing in the new parliament.
Okay. You will notice here that he accuses Mark Carney of wanting to consider more power and money into his own hands. Right? So always the attacks and the nastiness, the avoidance of any reflection on himself. Once again, talking about Canadians did not vote for a Liberal majority because the Liberals didn't pick up 50% of the vote, or 50% plus 1 of the popular vote, so Canadians rejected a majority. Again, trying to pretend that we vote for majorities or minorities, when all we do is vote for the candidate in our riding. And then we all vote for the candidates in our riding, and then the chips fall where they may. We're never asked whether or not we want a majority or a minority, but still pushing that. Just the amount of lies that he works in subtly all the time. It's really impressive. It's really, really, really impressive how easily he lies.
Can't convince your entire own caucus of that. How will you convince Canadians?
Well, how will I convince Canadians? We'll be going into communities, into community halls, meeting with people.
Okay. Again, kits and cubs, if you cannot convince your party of this, how can you convince Canadians? He completely omits the if you cannot convince your party part of the question and just answers how would you go about convincing Canadians, as if the first part of that question wasn't put in there. The conditional wasn't
at grocery stores and coffee shops to talk to them about getting rid of the industrial carbon tax, lowering the income taxes, cutting back on the new fuel taxes Liberals are bringing in so that people can actually afford to eat, heat, and house themselves. That's how we're going to do it.
But I'll put to you again, you could not convince two of your own MPs that those ideas were enough to stay in the party under your leadership. And again, I'll put to you with great respect, I look at public opinion polling. Every single one of them has your party and the Liberals neck and neck, within 1 or 2 points of each other. But when you look deeper at your own personal numbers, the divide between you and the leader of the Liberal Party, the Prime Minister, is far more significant. You were supposed to win this election, you lost it, you didn't hold your own seat. You have now lost 3 MPs. At what point are you a liability to the Conservative Party?
Well, we added 2.5 million votes. We had the biggest vote count in our party's history. We got 25 more seats, the biggest share of votes since 1988. Why? Because I ran on restoring the promise of this country, that anybody who works hard gets a good life, gets an affordable home, a safe street. And that vision brought people to our party in record numbers. We've led the debate on inflation, carbon taxes, crime, immigration, natural resources, drugs, and more, to the point where the Liberals have to plagiarize our words, even though if they don't actually put them into practice. So we've been driving the debate under my leadership, and we're going to continue to demonstrate that if Canadians want those policies that Liberals keep pretending to support, they're actually going to have to vote for the real deal in the next election.
But you lost. At the end of the day, you lost, right? And I just don't understand kind of how, after all of that, and I'm not taking away from the election result, the significance of it, and certainly I've directed a lot of those questions at the Liberals to try and hold them to account. But there is absolutely zero sense of contrition on your part, particularly after the loss of these 2 MPs. Why?
Well, I'm very troubled that they made that decision, but the people in their ridings voted for the Conservative agenda that I'm.
Okay. Again, kits and cups. She is asking the question that kills over and over and over again. And he's just basically responding, stab me again. This is terribly pathetic. The number of times he goes back to safe streets and can't afford to eat and kind of like that whole speech, you remember, from his his election campaign, where you can sit on a balcony with your paycheck in one hand and a cold drink in another, watching the sunset under a proud Canadian flag in a safe home on a safe street. Like this, it's literally just recycling that and coming back to the same things all the damn time. The robot has his programming, and nothing is going to get away in that program. I mean, Vashi Kapelas here is hitting him really hard with these questions, right? I mean, she's like, you were supposed, but you lost. You were supposed to win this election. You've now lost 3 MPs, right? At what point are you a liability? It's like, well, we added 2.5 million votes. He goes back to polishing the shiniest silver medal in Canadian political history. He's happy with that. He's happy with that. He says he also drove a record number of votes to the Liberals as well. He keeps on saying again that Liberals are stealing his policies, but don't really want to implement them, when we saw Mark Carney eliminate consumer carbon pricing, but he's still trying to make Canadians believe that, oh, Mark Carney says he'll do it, but he'll just never do it. Mark Carney said that he would not play games and allow Pierre Poilièvre to run for his by-election right away, and he also did that too, right? And Vashi Kapelos, throughout these last two questions, is pre-butting all the other stuff, right? It's like, with respect, it's like, I understand that you guys did well. I understand that you guys are closer together than the polls, but you have to look at your personal numbers. You have to look, right? And then she goes, because now this is like the fifth or sixth time that she's asking them, like, there's absolutely no contrition on your part. Why? The question, why is there no contrition on your part? Well, I'm very troubled that they made that decision, but the people in their ridings voted for the conservative agenda that I'm continually leading on in the House. Again, the question is about you, sir. Where's your contrition? Why are you not taking any notes? Why do you keep on actively resisting any responsibility at all for the fact that people, one, that you lost, two, that people are leaving your party? They can't run away from your party fast enough. And he's got nothing but, again, inflation, safe streets, food banks, nothing. It is really sad. Oh my God. So, Vashi Kapelos leaves that line of questioning for a while, and then goes and gets him, asks him about other stuff. Right? Okay. You don't want to talk about the contrition and all that kind of stuff. You like to talk about inflation. You like to talk about, all that other stuff. Okay, fine. Right? You want to talk about that stuff? Fine. Let's talk about that stuff. Handles the questions on the terrain that he would prefer to be on.
I do want to talk about inflation because we've got new numbers out from Statistics Canada this week, in particular about grocery prices, and you flagged some of it right there. Another 4.7% higher in this November than it was last November. You have consistently laid the blame for that at the Prime Minister's feet. You've also more specifically blamed high government spending, big government deficits, which this deficit objectively is very high. If that were the case, though, wouldn't core inflation also be increasing at the same rate as those grocery prices?
It is increasing. It's been between 2.8 and 3% ever since Mr. Carney became Prime Minister, which is not, the target is 2. When it's at 3, that's not 1% higher, that's 50% higher. And people feel that in higher costs for food is the worst offender right now, of course, 4.7 or 4.8%. But not only food, other basic essentials are going up. Rent has been going up. The cost of fuel, if you take out the temporary effect of the carbon tax, has been going up. So Canadians can't afford this government. And it's very simple. When you're creating cash faster than you're creating the stuff cash buys, you have inflation. And that is one of the reasons why prices continue to rise. And for many people, rise faster than their incomes. It's why we have a record number of people lined up at food banks. It's why we meet people every single day who tell me they simply cannot afford to put food on the table anymore. People with jobs who work 50, 60 hours a week are going to food banks for the first time in their lives because of the higher cost that this Liberal government is imposing, yes, through its deficits, but also through its hidden grocery taxes.
I want to unpack some of that because I understand exactly what you mean about people. They approach us, they talk about this as well. We represent it on our newscast and we talk about it frequently. And it is not to take away from that I ask you questions about the policies you say would ameliorate that situation for them.
Okay, again, right? Notice what Vashi Kapelos did there at the end, right? She did all the things that she needs to do so that Pierre can't turn around and says, oh, but you're the biased media, blah, 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 like this, or you don't ask the Liberals these questions, or blah, 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 right? Because she's preempting all of that before asking the question. So she's taking away a lot of the avenues that he can usually go to weasel out of stuff. and he's still finding ways to weasel out of stuff. It's absolutely incredible. So, of course, this answer, right, is not particularly making sense. Now, of course, in a normal interview, you get asked a question one time, maybe get pressed a little, and then they move on to another subject. Vashi doesn't do that on this subject either. How would I put it? Watch what happens next, I guess.
But when I pose to you the difference between food inflation, for example, and regular inflation, the core inflation number in November is down 2.8%. As you said, it was originally 3%.
What's the target?
The target is between 2 and 3%.
Okay. This is what Vashi Kapelos does very, very well here, because you see Pierre got that little smirk on his face where he was going to try to lead her down, because in the previous answer, Pierre did that math thing that I always point out to him. And he says, like, well, the thing went up from 1 to 2, when inflation, the target is 2%. And if it's at 3, well, the difference between 2 and 3% is not 1%. It's a whole 50%. It's 50% bigger. So that's when Pierre comes up with these things. Things have been up 127%. Comparing what to what? What type of math are you doing? Yes, it is true that 2 is 100% more than if you add 1 to 1, you've doubled. But it's still, in terms of quantity, 1 more. Right? And Pierre does this fun with numbers thing where the target is 2. And Vashi Kapelos accurately points out here, no, it's a target range, 1 to 3, with 2 being right smack in the middle of the target. But it is a target range, not a target just 2 specifically, because if it's at 2 specifically and inflation's at 2.2, well, that gives Pierre the permission to go, oh my God, There's a range. And all the inflation numbers are within range. And when the main inflation number, the headline number, was at 1.7, below 2, you didn't see Pierre running through the streets suddenly commending the government on their wonderful success. All right. So let's see how Ms. Kapelos keeps insisting.
It is within the target range right now, inflation. I'm just saying the difference between food and like, if it were all government spending, wouldn't it all be out of control? And it's not. There are other factors at play, including those detailed by Statistics Canada in their report released this week. Things like weather conditions, cattle supply, things like that.
So first of all, the target is not between 2 and 3%. The target is 2%. The range is 1 to 3.
Lie.
And we're at the top of the range and on the verge of going over it. For food prices, it's 4.8. And Canadians will be forced to spend an extra $1,000 next year on groceries for a total of $17,600, an almost unbelievable amount of money, an amount that is doubled under the Liberal government. It is true that that inflation is too high across the board. Food is worse. Now, why is inflation high across the board? Because the government is running a $78 billion deficit. They're creating more cash. That bids up the price of goods. Why is food worse? Because on top of the monetary inflation of printing money, you've got a bunch of extra hidden taxes. You've got the industrial carbon tax, which applies on farm, fertilizer, food processors. You've got the food packaging tax. They're banning single-use plastics. Sounds like a nice idea until you learn that it makes food go bad 4 days faster, and all that food waste goes on your grocery bill. Then you've got the fuel standard tax, which is going to hit 7 cents a liter next year. That hits farmers. There's no farm exemption on that, by the way. Even the horrible carbon tax, at least they had a colored fuel exemption for farm equipment. This is going to be a tax directly on tractors and combines and on the truckers that bring us food. And then, of course, you've got the deficit. So all of these things these are all Liberal policies that drive up the cost of food and everything else. And that's why we need to cut the taxes, but also cut the wasteful spending to bring down that crazy deficit.
But two of those things that you flagged, for example, the packaging stuff that's about to come, the clean fuel regulations, all of those are things that are to come into effect in the future.
Okay, so let's stop that there. You see what Pierre does there, right? He starts talking about all these different other things, all these other alleged taxes. Now, Pierre is doing this thing here where anything that goes into the production, handling, manipulation, shipping, transport, storage, inventory of food is a food tax. Right. And in the previous answer earlier on, he said, I fought all those taxes and we're not. And that's not true. That's not true. Previous to the election, Pierre was only talking about the carbon tax. It was axe the tax, not axe the taxes. But now he's claiming that he's fighting all those other taxes all along. No. He started fighting those other taxes that he's pretending exists. Right? He's pretending that he's fought all those taxes all along. Oh, I meant those ones too. No, you never said them. What happened is that you said if we eliminated the carbon tax, food prices would go down. And then Mark Carney promised he would eliminate the carbon tax. And then you said, don't trust him. He doesn't really mean it. And then he really meant it. And then the price of food, once the carbon tax was removed, surprise, surprise, did not go down. And then everybody go, well, why is that? How could that possibly be? I mean, Pierre told us that if we did that, it would go down. It would go down, and it didn't. So then Pierre came around and says, well, no, it's because he didn't remove all the carbon taxes, like the taxes on farming equipment, the steel on those blades and the farming equipment. What costs more? That's food tax. Says, yes, because we eat the steel from the tractor. Right, Pierre? Is that why? So he's throwing everything in the kitchen sink. Now, I understand. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not trying to be insensitive in the sense that I understand very accurately and very acutely that if you are having trouble affording food, right? My point about the steel going into the tractor being taxed, raising the price, probably does not matter to you. I get that. And that's fine. But if we're talking about being honest, right? There's a difference between taxing food and taxing some of the things you need to either sell, market, grow, all that type of food. And then you can even make distinctions, right? Because fertilizers technically are not things that we eat, but fertilizers are kind of rather intrinsic to growing stuff. So maybe, you could kind of make a case. Maybe you can make a case that way. But to throw the packaging that we put food in, if there's a tax on that's a tax on food. It's stretching. It's stretching the definition. And it's deliberately so because the only reason he is doing this is because he was wrong on the first point. Very wrong. He's now being proven wrong. And he just cannot. He just cannot allow that to stand. He needs to be right. It's almost like those people that say that the rapture is coming, and then the rapture didn't come, and they say, oh, well, what happened? Oh, it's because the guy that said it was made a miscalculation. He got it wrong. It's really going to be in 2 months and 3 days from now. And then 2 months and 3 days from now happens, and the rapture didn't come again. And then they have another reason, right? There's this guy online, another gay guy that has this account. I think it's called Don't Cross a Gay Man. His first name is Misha. I can't remember his last name. And he keeps on telling the story of this lady that lives in his apartment. And this lady had asked him if he would take care of her dog because the rapture was coming. And since, pets don't get taken in the rapture, and since he was gay and he wasn't going to be, I guess he was going to be left behind or something, whether or not he could take care of her dog because she was definitely going to be saved. And then she wasn't. And they says, oh, well, there was miscalculation. And then came the extra days and says, will you take care of my dog again? I said, sure. And then, right, that didn't happen. And then apparently she's in the elevator again. She says, and then she just got all mad and says, okay, so you got me. It did happen there. And it's like, but she still ended up with another thing that ended up putting him down because he was gay, right? Because she just couldn't accept that. It just has that feeling with Pierre. It's like, oh, no. It's because you didn't cut all the carbon taxes, the other food taxes. Cut them all, and you'll see this time it'll work. It's like, no, it won't work. It won't work, Pierre, because we all know that one of the rules of pricing is that this whole COVID thing and then supply shortages and droughts and then wars and all the other things that you just will not admit play a role in food prices. Right? All of those things. It's just so frustrating to hear him talk. I had a point where I was going to, and I it completely just slipped out of my mind. But all these things that he's saying about food prices. Oh, yes, I remembered. That whole entire period showed us that grocers will put a sticker price that they know consumers can absorb or are willing to absorb. So if you are paying, let's say, for sake of argument, I know that this is not the price, but let's say you are paying $5 for a loaf of bread, right? Loaf of bread was $3.29, and then all this stuff happened, and it's $5. And now, okay, supply chains are better and all that kind of stuff. But bread is still, well, okay, it's maybe not still $5. Let's say it did go down, but it went down to $4.50. But you were paying $3.29. Why are you still paying $4.50? Well, you were paying $5, and you didn't stop buying bread. What incentive is there for the grocer to lower it down to $3.29? Same thing with fuel taxes, right? Every time the provincial, mostly conservative government says, I'm going to take 5 cents off the fuel the fuel tax. That's how I'll save you money. That's how you'll be able to afford food. And then you go to the gas pump and it's like, where did the 5 cents go? Right? Because there's absolutely no mechanism to enforce it to make sure that that cost savings is passed down to you. Why would the gas stations lower the price of their gas by 5 cents? Why wouldn't they just not pocket it instead? You're already paying it. They know you can pay it. When we removed the carbon tax, we had to, and the gas stations had to, because everyone would notice at that particular point. So, but you will notice that over time, they've done it. They gave you the full rebate at the beginning, but then over time, quarter of a cent here, half a cent there, whatnot. They've clawed back their couple of cents on a liter. You're not getting that saving anymore. That got reabsorbed. But Pierre wants you to believe that if you cut all these other taxes, that those taxes will be passed down to you like they were not the first time. The argument didn't work for him the first time, and he's just coming, oh no, it's because you didn't try hard enough. You didn't cut enough taxes, all the taxes that I'm now claiming I said you needed to cut all along, but never did. Let's see where Vashi takes this, because she's doing a really good job here.
The level that you have described and that all your press releases talk about, that's not actually what's happening right now. So are you not misrepresenting, again, the truth, the full picture? Like you want Canadians to believe everything is the government's fault. Some of it is, but not all of it.
So those things are in place right now. The industrial carbon tax is in place right now.
But your own language said is going to be. Like the industrial carbon tax, yes, but the food packaging and the clean fuel regulations.
The packaging tax is already in place. The fuel standard is in place as well. I said next year it's rising even more to 7 cents a liter. I think it's 3 or 4 right now. So these policies are in place already. You're right to say they are going to get worse the longer the Liberals are in power, because they have an accelerator on all of those taxes, but they are in place right now and they have real costs today.
But is it fair to say that it's just that stuff? Like, why isn't Statistics Canada, who used to, for example, isolate the carbon tax and driving up the price of gasoline and be honest with Canadians about that, why are they not saying, here are all the things that the government is doing that is wrong, that is leading to these excessive prices? Instead, they're very specific in highlighting higher beef prices have been driven in part by lower cattle inventories in North America. Coffee prices have been impacted by adverse weather conditions in growing regions. Like, there are other reasons, and you don't want to concede that at all.
Well, if there were just a bunch of sporadic reasons that are scattered across the world, then you would presume there would be other things that would favor price reductions and cancel them out. But it's not just coffee and beef and lettuce. It's
okay. I have to cut him off there, because when he said that, okay, throughout this whole segment, Vashi Kapelos is trying to make the point, as you said, Pierre, that if we cut the consumer carbon pricing, price of food would go down. We cut consumer carbon pricing, the price of food did not go down. Right? Very specific point. You say that inflation, everything is the fault of the government for that. And she's saying, well, if it was government spending rising, making the prices of everything increase ridiculously, and there is no printing money happening, by the way, Pierre, wouldn't that apply to everything across the board and not just food? Pierre's position is that government spending necessarily causes inflation. So why isn't everything at a very high rate of inflation like food? If food is currently at 4.7 inflation, why is inflation on almost every other metric lower? There's got to be something else, right? And again, as she says, your refusal to acknowledge that there could possibly be anything else. Why? Why? Statistics Canada even isolated consumer carbon pricing to show how much. And he lied about that the entire time too, despite those numbers. And he cannot answer. He skates, he dances, he moves around, whatnot. He cannot answer. And on this one, he basically turns around and says that, well, if that was it has to be that, because if it was the case, well then there would be things that would happen that would raise the price of certain foods, and there would have to be things that happen that decrease the price of other foods, and then therefore those things would all cancel out. They would cancel themselves out. And when I hear that, all I can think of is that U.S. representative, I think his name was Todd Akin, back in the day, when they were talking about, in the States, abortions. It was about the abortion law. And the topic had moved on to, people who had been SA'd and were pregnant as a result, and being forced to carry their violator's child to term. And the guy came up and said, well, in the case of a legitimate rape, right, the female body has ways to shut that down. Right? If it's a legitimate rape, your body will do something to cancel that out. It's the same type of logic that he is using here. It's dumb. It's dumb. Because, yes, it is true. Like, for example, we mentioned it on the show when we were talking about the inflation numbers, right? Right? Food is up 4.7%. Coffee, right? Chocolate. There has the conditions for growing those things haven't been great. Beef, there's been droughts. So, the cattle herds have decreased. Poultry, bird flu, right? There was a lot of culling of animals. So, none of these realities matter to him. Right? It's carny, Trudeau, liberals. Doesn't matter if these things are going on in other countries of the world, doesn't matter like this. He will not acknowledge. He just will not. It's rather actually disturbing to see someone just not want to admit reality. And now we get to the point in this interview where Pierre Poilièvre does something really interesting. He recycles an old argument that he's used for housing. If you remember, he keeps on saying that housing in Canada should be the cheapest anywhere in the world because we have the most land to build on, other than Russia, the second largest country in the world in terms of land mass. We have all this land mass. We should have the cheapest homes in the world. That was his logic. We'll get into the limitations of that logic in a second. But remember that argument because Pierre tries to recycle it.
Groceries across the board are more expensive. It doesn't matter if you're buying a loaf of bread or a bag of peanuts, you're paying more for everything, vastly more. And let's be clear, the cost of groceries for a family of four has roughly doubled under this Liberal government. That's not because there was a one-year drought for coffee bean growers in Brazil this year. This has been a consistent trend since the Liberal government took office, and in particular in the last 5 years, while Carney was Trudeau's economic advisor, while they started printing money and accelerating their tax increases on fuel and energy, that is when we have started to see the worst inflation, just as I predicted we would, and it will get worse as long as they keep taxing and spending money that Canadians can't afford.
So let me maybe get you on the record then, Mr. Poilièvre. If you, as promised, remove all of these, just as you said you would remove the consumer carbon price, will groceries become cheap?
Food should be really cheap in Canada because we have the most farmland anywhere. I think the 5th most farmland anywhere in the world. This is what's so frustrating. Everything should be dirt cheap in Canada because we have the most dirt. We have.
Okay. Everything should be cheaper and dirt cheap in Canada because we have the most dirt. Okay, I'm going to let him finish his thought, but I'll get back.
The most dirt to grow food on, the most dirt to build houses on, the most dirt to produce energy from, we have the 3rd big oil. It should be cheap to buy these things in Canada. We should be the most affordable country in the world, yet why are we one of the most expensive? Government, taxes on home building, taxes on energy, government money printing, blocking us from producing our resources, which artificially suppresses the Canadian dollar. And when you have a weak dollar, you have less buying power. The cost of living crisis is entirely government made, and that is what is so frustrating about it.
Respectfully, though, my question was, if you remove, as you allege, all of these policies that are the sole contributor to inflation, which I counter, I don't know if that's the whole picture, but let's say what you say is true, and they all are. And you're Prime Minister, and you do all that, will Canadians have cheap food prices?
Savings.
Because when the carbon price was removed, they did not.
Because they brought in
They didn't bring it in, they already had
taxes,
it. We litigated this before.
Yes, but they're increasing, and you can't, so the Liberals take one hand out of your right.
Okay, we'll stop there. We'll stop there because just so much BS. All right, the question that started that one off was, if you do all that, will the price of food come down? And it goes, well, we should have the cheapest. Again, that's not a yes. He can't answer yes to that because he knows it is not true. He knows it is not true. So he shifts, and Pierre introduces us to the wonderful concept of Dirtonomics. Or should I say, Dirtonomics. With skippy air quotes. We should have, Pierre's been saying this a lot like this, we should have the cheapest homes because we got the most lands to build on. We should have the cheapest food because we got the most land to grow it on. We should have the cheapest whatever, right? Because apparently square footage determines price. Okay. He states this as if the overwhelming majority of the dirt in this country is inhabitable, or ready for sowing or construction on day one, the second we arrive on it. Yes, we have a lot of square footage, but there's a reason why a very significant percentage of our nation's population all live within 200 kilometers of the U.S. border. Yeah, throw a dart on the map of Canada and say, okay, here's where we're going to build a new development. You've got no sewage, you've got no electricity, it's not infrastructure ready. There's no public services. There are no hospitals in the area. There are no police stations. Who's going to live there, Pierre? Who's going to move there? We should have the cheapest. It should be the cheapest to do everything in this country because we've got the most dirt. Yeah, we also have extremely long distances between communities in a very sparsely populated country if we're looking at density of population per square area of the country. We have winters. We have, if you're the further north you go, transportation costs, places that are only fly-in, that really raise the price. But yeah, it doesn't cost more to build here because Canada. I swear to God, we, all of us, like in the new year, we should just like a handful of dirt, just put it in an envelope and mail it to Pierre's constituency office and say, here's some dirt. Grow me some food. And once the meal is ready, invite me over for dinner. I'll bring the wine. Oh, shit. Oh my God. This guy is either really stupid and believes this himself, because, or knows that he's a world-class bullshitter and just really thinks that we are so stupid that we would buy that. We should have the cheapest food in the world because we've got the most dirt. We should have dirt cheap food because we got the most dirt. Oh my word. This guy is can you get any more simple? Simple explanations, simple solutions by a simple man who desperately needs you to be as simple as he thinks you are. This type of discourse is an insult. We pay for this. We pay his salary. We pay his benefits. We pay the people that research this stuff for him. We pay for him to come up with this crap. The public airwaves that he appears on to be able to deliver this crap to us. We pay for all of that. We are paying to be told to our face, Canada, I think you're stupid and I intend to treat you like you are and talk to you like you are. Vote for me. I'm just, wow. Always some early wisdom. Always beware of the people who live in the world of should rather than in the world of is. We should have the cheapest homes. We should have the cheapest food. We should have the... We don't. We don't. And Pierre wants you to believe that the only reason is government. Not corporate greed, not environmental disaster, not wars, not tariffs, not our former friends trying their best to decimate us. None of that. No. All government. All government. Well, it's just... He was in government. He was in government for a decade. If he truly believed this, why didn't the government he was a part of solve all these things that were the fault of the government when they were in government? Where was Pierre talking about the price of food back then being so high, or the price of housing being so damn high? Housing was rising. The prices of housing was rising rapidly during the Conservative term as well. But it wasn't government then. And it certainly wasn't him when he was Minister of Housing, or so he claims. It's just, wow. Everything should be dirt cheap because we have the most dirt. Drink. So, yeah, Pierre is getting himself laughed out of all kinds of places as a result of that comment. He is being mocked mercilessly across social media for that comment. And here's the thing is Pierre's everything in this country should be dirt cheap because we have the most dirt is basically his equivalent of Justin Trudeau's and the budget will balance itself comment. Except that, as we've demonstrated on the show before, Justin Trudeau's and the budget will balance itself comment was something that actually made sense when taken in the entire context of everything that he had said. It was true, right? That if you find a way to generate some additional income, and if you, by generating that additional income, you spend more, but you don't spend as much as the income you generate, and you do that consistently over time, the difference between what you earn and what you spend, the little bit that you have left over, if you accumulate it every month, eventually will be more than a debt that you have. Eventually, you'll be able to make up the ground. Your budget will balance itself if you maintain that discipline and stay on course. And life doesn't throw you any curveballs, of course. But Pierre's comment here is presented in the entire context of everything he said. And it's literally the amount of dirt you have should determine the price of things that you grow in dirt or built on dirt or pull out of dirt. It's just, it is so simple that it is almost, well, it's not, it is. It's not that it's almost laughable. It is laughable. Smug, entitled, contemptuous. Wow. He is terrible at this. Jeez. Anyway, yeah. He's just like I said, people are making fun of him. Greg McEachern, U.S. Conservatives, Secretary of War, Canadian Conservatives, Minister of Dirt. Canada has so much dirt. How much dirt? This much. With pictures of PP and some comments gesticulating in the oh my God. Oh shit. Wow. Jeez. Okay. So since we are dissing and dishing about this guy, Sandy White in the Montreal Gazette, published December 17th. December cruel month for some of Canada's opposition leaders, from Quebec to BC. Now, with the second floor crossing from the federal Conservatives to the Liberals in under a month, Pierre Poilièvre must consider his own future. Having lost the April federal election in spectacular fashion, including losing his own seat, the hits keep coming for Poilièvre as Mark Carney's Liberals steal not only his ideas, but also his team, leaving the opposition leader denuded and adrift. Oh, please don't put that visual in my head. Last thing I want to imagine is Pierre Poilièvre denuded and adrift, with it sort of like, no, that's a visual we don't need. Last week, Ontario MP Michael Ma left the Conservatives to join the Liberals, a floor crossing that further undermines Poilièvre's claim to be strengthening the Conservative brand. Ma's departure is symptomatic of deeper fractures in a party that should be consolidating, not hemorrhaging members to its opponents. Ma's defection followed the November departure of veteran Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Entremont, who also joined the Liberals after citing concerns about Poilièvre's negative approach to politics and his leadership style, and describing an environment sounding more like a locker room than a serious political party. To paraphrase Oscar Wilde, for Poilièvre to lose one MP can be regarded as a misfortune. To lose two looks like carelessness. Ever the combatant, Poilièvre is not known for the soft touch and personal connection with his team leaders like Brian Mulroney were famous for. While this aggressiveness made him an excellent jugular politician, it may prove fatal for his leadership as MPs increasingly feel shut out of the one-man act that is the Poilièvre Conservative Party. Polls show that although the Liberals and Conservatives aren't far apart in voter intention, Poilièvre is substantially less popular than his party, making him a drag on Conservative prospects in a future election. And in an aside on that, there was like a whole bunch of the online team, like the Jingle Balls and all the other ones out there saying, "Oh my God, Liberal support is collapsing," because the Liberal polls, like I think, like dropped like from 43% support to 41% support or something like that. And it's like, dudes, it's like, at first of all, my first thought is, she works hard for the money, because you're trying to squeeze a lot of lemon juice out of that poll result, especially when we've all, as Canadians, all of us have witnessed what a true collapse looks like, blowing a 20-something point lead in the space of a few months. A 2 or 3 point drop in polls over a certain period of time after an election, when Canadians are feeling pretty secure in the knowledge that there's not going to be another federal election coming soon. Thank you, floor crossers. Like, yes, because it would be totally unexpected in a poll when Canadians are feeling safe that there's not going to be another federal election soon, that all the people that voted X to block O, all the people that lended the Liberals their vote in this particular election in order to vote not Pierre, if not vote yes Carney, who are now feeling safe that there's not going to be another election. So when the pollsters call, they can express their opinion for the party that they prefer, the one that's in their hearts. Do you think that all those people that thought that Pierre was such a threat in April, or so incompetent in April, that they just could not give him the job, would suddenly want to give him their vote again, or not vote for the Liberals to block Pierre if he would present himself again immediately right away, particularly in light of the fact that he has evolved and grown not a millimeter since the last election? And the situation south of us hasn't changed at all. In fact, it's even worse, if one would like to think about it, because they're not talking about, let's say they're not talking about annexing Canada right at the moment anymore aloud. We see what's going on in Venezuela, and once again, they just deployed an envoy to Greenland because Trump says that we need it. Do we really think that he stopped thinking about us that way? Or maybe we're just showing that we have we would fight too hard, and Donald Trump, well, he likes an easy fight. Hello, Venezuela. Right? Does anybody think that the Greens and the NDPs and people who would consider themselves progressive conservative, or even people that maybe sometimes don't vote but see Pierre and they go, oh, fuck no. That all these people would suddenly vote differently when the offer hasn't changed one bit on Pierre's side and the threats around us have not subsided an iota. Come on, this is not serious. While some caucus members and ardent supporters bury their heads in the sand on this issue, when your leader has been the liability for years, it's not something that a few gym sessions and a better fitting wardrobe can solve. It's a crisis. The Liberals are now one seat away from a majority government. We can expect that as Carney completes his metamorphosis from climate crusader to pipeline convert with no values or value seeming too big to compromise, he will find the remaining MP needed to give the party majority status, effectively ensuring that the next federal election could be as far as away. Faced with this prospect, I can't think of many Canadians who are prepared to watch reruns of the Poilièvre show for that long. In an age with attention spans measured in nanoseconds, he will inevitably fall victim to a news culture he had previously captivated as tired voters scroll past him to their next dopamine hit. It was only months ago that Poilièvre, a lifelong politician who only ever wanted to be prime minister, was all but guaranteed to win the big job. He was the guy who told it straight and stood up for the disaffected on issues like housing and cost of living, with gritted teeth and the calculated swiftness of someone who has shadowboxed every conversation he has ever had before it took place. He promised a Canada that moved past the politics of woke that is base despised. It is that same belligerent version of himself, so effective as opposition leader in the previous parliament, that is now proving repugnant to his erstwhile supporters and some in his own party. As a challenging year comes to a close, the Conservative family is in need of serious reflection. Leadership isn't merely about rallying the base, it's about governing a broad coalition with compelling ideas. And if your own members are escaping for your rivals, it is clear the party's path to national leadership runs through hard questions about tone, direction, and electability. For the good of the party and for the future of the country, the answer should be evident. Poilièvre's time as a leader must come to an end. Mm. Mm-mm, 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 mm. Wow. So that was a great piece in the Montreal Gazette. Again, going to want to give the author some credit here. That was Sandy White. Speaking of Pierre being around a little too long, the Liberals did something very interesting. I think it was yesterday, would have been. The Liberals noticed that it was a very special occasion, and they wanted to celebrate it and highlight it and bring it to the attention of Canadians because a certain milestone had been achieved yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I hope it was yesterday. Oh, darn. I wish I could find it. I thought for sure it would have been on the webpage of the Liberal Party, but it was not. Oh, darn. I was looking forward to showing it to you. But yeah, the Liberals put out this little video celebrating Pierre Poilièvre because very recently it was Poilièvre's 30th, what am I talking about? 20th anniversary as a member of Parliament. Yes, kids and cubs, about 20 years. 20 years. Oh, God. I can't believe that. 20 years ago today, the guy who came to national attention by writing a contest, If I Were PM contest, claiming that nobody should serve more than 2 terms, is entering his second decade. second decade as a member of parliament. Oh my God. Oh, actually, you know what? I made a mistake. It wasn't yesterday. Sorry, it wasn't yesterday. Uh, see, I made a mistake. This was something back from 2000. See, this is good because I went back and looked. All I saw was the video, but then I managed to find the original source of it, not the recreated one. And this actually, see, I thought this appeared yesterday because it was yesterday, but no, this was actually from June 28th, 2024. This appeared. So it's been a little bit more now. So June 28th, 2024 was 20 years of Poilièvre as a member of parliament. But for some reason, somebody decided to re-up this yesterday in order, I guess, to just bring it back to our attention. So even though I was wrong in that it's something that didn't come out yesterday, I think it is still good. And since we were having fun, laughing at Pierre a bit, why not keep the party going a little bit?
Then they're going to unionize all of the professionals who will work in these facilities. Marriage ought to be preserved as a union between one man and one woman. Now, of course, he wants a paternity test to prove that this tar baby is not his.
We're not going to succumb to political correctness.
Significant increases in the effective retirement age are required.
We're conservatives, so we don't believe in that. The Prevention of Government-Imposed Vaccination Mandates Act.
I was out at an overpass as the truckers went by, and what I saw were cheerful, patriotic, optimistic Canadians.
Bitcoin is the best tool for you to transact.
Woke, far away foreign lands, Mr. Speaker.
Oh my God. Oh, jeez. Okay. Oh, man. 4 more years. 4 more years. I'm terrible. I am so terrible. Okay. So, yeah. Not anyway, Pierre's being mocked. Pierre's being mocked. And he's earned it. He deserves it. He deserves it. Dirtonomics, please. All right. Let's see what other things people have been saying about Pierre of late. This is in the Winnipeg Free Press. Editorial by the Winnipeg Free Press. It's often said the first step towards finding a solution is admitting there's a problem. Pierre Poilièvre has a problem. What seems to be making it difficult for the Conservative Party leader to fix is his inability to recognize, or at least publicly acknowledge, that Pierre Poilièvre, in large part, is the problem. It's you. Hi. You're the problem. It's you. Yeah, Pierre. In the wake of recently having 3 Conservative MPs exit his caucus, 2 crossing the floor to join the ruling Liberal Party, and a 3rd declaring he intends to leave office early next year, Poilièvre continues to reject any suggestion his leadership style is a factor in those departures or the other concerning trends that find the party he leads losing strength and influence less than 12 months after seemingly being headed towards a massive majority victory. When Acadie-Annapolis MP Chris d'Entremont defected in November, he cited Poilièvre's combative, divisive style as a factor in his decision. It's just looking at leadership styles and whether we are doing the right thing for Canada or we're doing the right thing for ourselves. And I would rather be on the side of Canadians, he said, adding other Conservatives should consider whether they're, quote, trying to build for the world rather than knocking people down. When Markham Unionville MP Michael Ma followed suit last week, He said his choice to join the Liberals followed listening to his constituents and reflecting on the direction in which both his party and the country are headed. Quote, "This is a time for unity and decisive action for Canada's future," he explained. "I entered public service to help people, to focus on solutions, not division." The addition of the two former Conservatives raises the Liberal seat total to 171, just one seat shy of a parliamentary majority. Meanwhile, Edmonton MP Matt Genereux, after reportedly considering crossing the floor, declared in November he will step down as early as next spring, has not appeared in the House of Commons or participated in votes since his announcement. And yet, when asked in the aftermath of his former colleagues' exits whether he bears some responsibility for their decisions, Poilièvre adopted a familiar tone. Quote, "No, it's a problem of Mark Carney's leadership," he countered when CBC's Rosemary Barton posed the inevitable question. "He's trying to manipulate his way through backroom deals to get a majority." It would, he insisted in Poilièvre speak, be, quote, "a costly majority that would, quote, enrich liberal elites, achieved, quote, not through democratic means." Unfortunately for the Conservative leader, the option of crossing the floor to join another party is very much part of this country's entrenched democratic traditions. And while he might insist Carney somehow seduced his erstwhile caucus members to switch allegiances, there's no denying they must have cultivated sufficient reason to leave before deciding where to go. It isn't surprising that Poilièvre would refuse to entertain the notion he's on the wrong side of this discussion. His has been a never-step-back approach to politicking since his early emergence as one of Prime Minister Stephen Harper's most effective attack dogs. As Conservative leader, he has consistently demonstrated a willingness to favor inflammatory rhetoric, name-calling, and confrontational catchphrases over measured political debate. Facts have frequently been a casualty in his overzealous pursuit of political advantage. Is his leadership part of the problem? One of the hallmarks of that style and Poilièvre's political personality is that he would never concede such a thing. But when the Conservative Party gathers in Calgary next month for its leadership review, the one thing that most certainly won't be up for discussion is Carney's leadership style. Ooh. Ouch. Damn. According to the Sault Star. Sault Ste. Marie. There's an old saying in politics: never let a good crisis go to waste. As leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilièvre knows this better than anyone. When Algoma Steel announced over 1,000 layoffs, Pierre Poilièvre on cue was center stage to blame the Prime Minister, carbon taxes, and question the $400 million loan to Algoma Steel. This is to be expected, whether it's homelessness, opioid addiction, or playing footsie with vaccine deniers, but he doesn't like to let facts get in the way of a good soundbite. But what is happening to Sault Ste. Marie demands genuine, mature leadership, not soundbites. Solutions need to be based on facts, not political theater and outlandish accusations. When Algoma Steel began the transition from integrated steel to the electric arc furnace, or EAF, this was done with the full knowledge that jobs were going to be lost. As we reported on the show, it was published in the news in March that when Algoma Steel had installed both its EAFs, or electric arc furnaces, there would be 1,000 job cuts. The EAF will produce high-quality, world-class steel without blast furnaces and coke ovens, which means layoffs. Same steel, less carbon, and less labor. This was not a secret. At a press conference in November 2021, the union acknowledged that jobs would be lost. 2021. This is even earlier than March. Wow. When the United States imposed a 50% tariff on Canadian steel, Algoma Steel was forced to accelerate the launch of the EAF, leading to layoffs nearly a year earlier than planned. If Pierre Poilièvre listened to the union and steelworkers on his whistle stops in the Sioux, he would have known this. If he cared about their welfare, he would not have voted against enhanced EI benefits. The loss of livelihood of over 1,000 steelworkers gave Mr. Poilièvre the added opportunity to talk about his favorite topic, the carbon tax. Carbon tax is Mr. Poilièvre's go-to line and the cause of all the country's ills. While it may play to his base, what he refers to as the, quote, massive crippling carbon tax did not significantly affect Algoma's operations. Michael Garcia, president and CEO of Algoma Steel, made it perfectly clear that industrial carbon pricing had nothing to do with the challenges Algoma is facing. Pierre Poilièvre has accused the Prime Minister of incompetence and given money to his CEO pal. More cheap theatrics, not based on fact. Quite simply, the bridging loans are keeping Algoma Steel afloat while the EAF comes online and the mill pivots to new products. Effectively shut out of its primary market, Algoma could not remain operational without the type of assistance that the Ontario and federal government provided. Blaming the Prime Minister for incompetence is a cheap stunt that says more about his appreciation of economic realities than it does about the Prime Minister's judgment. While Pierre Poilièvre is chasing the carbon tax boogeyman and making outlandish claims that the Prime Minister gave $400 million to his CEO pal, the grown-ups have been busy. Algoma Steel CEO Michael Garcia, in his last few weeks before retirement, is fast-tracking the mill's efforts to produce beam and defense-grade steel plate, efforts that will result in recalling nearly half of the laid-off workers. So, 1,000 workers are going to be laid off, and it seems that when they get into the production of the new products, so the beam and defense-grade steel plates, about 500 of those 1,000 workers will be called back. Sioux College has launched a series of open houses to explain how they can assist in retraining steelworkers for new trades and careers. In the short term, Mayor Matthew Shoemaker and City Council are taking the initiative to close any space laid off. Sorry, read that again. In the short term, Mayor Matthew Shoemaker and City Councils are taking the City Council are taking the initiative to close any space between laid-off workers and jobs, not only in the Sioux, but in the Algoma district. The mayor is in discussions with Tenaris to determine what additional capacity can be added. In the long term, the mayor is doubling down on his efforts for the Port of Algoma operational, which will bring significant benefits to the Sioux. Since the announcement, Terry Sheehan has met with the Prime Minister, made a presentation to the National Caucus, and continues to keep the issue at the forefront. Within days of the announcement, Industry Minister Mélanie Joly was in Sault Ste. Marie meeting with Algoma Steel and union representatives. The Prime Minister met with the presidents of the United States and Mexico last week on the sidelines of the FIFA World Cup draw, where, according to the president, trade was the focus of the positive discussion. They are all working to make sure that steelworkers are supported, and Algoma is well on its way to being a more stable supplier of steel as Canada embarks on a nation-building project that will require Canadian steel, Algoma Steel. And let me remind you of one other thing, as Pierre is dismissing this and saying that, this $400 million loan was just to a CEO pal. We have to remember that Algoma Steel is the only Canadian-based and Canadian-owned steel company or steel manufacturer in all of Canada. And there is no major nation in the world that does not have a capacity to produce its own steel. So if we had let Algoma go under, Canada would not have a manufacturer or supplier of steel that is sovereign for its own purposes, such as defense or building its own pipelines or stuff like that. We would be entirely dependent on other countries. And even despite that, Pierre still has an objection to the loan. Would rather characterize it as something, Mark Carney funneling money to a pal, rather than doing the absolute minimum that was required for protecting sovereignty and our ability to defend ourselves in the future. This is what the serious people are doing. Pierre Poilièvre, having scored all the points he can, has moved on to his next outrage, pipelines and carbon taxes. With his leadership review weeks away, he needs to gain all the support he can. Since Algoma Steel and Sault Ste. Marie can't help him save his job, he has lost interest. Now the serious people can get on with the hard work that steelworkers and the people of Sault Ste. Marie deserve. And that was an editorial by Donald McFarling, the former executive assistant to Carmen Provenzano, Sault Ste. Marie MP from 1997 to 2004. He is currently an assistant professor at the Royal Military College of Canada, Department of Economics and Political Science. Woo! This editorial is particularly hard-hitting because it deals with people in a specific area where something specific is happening. So to the entire country who are not living in the Sault Ste. Marie and who are up in support conservatives might see Pierre's talk about, oh yeah, 400 million, and then the CEOs, the company's laying off 1,000 people. Yeah, we just got screwed. Carney's screwing us again, blah, 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 blah. But if you dig a little deeper, the people in the Sioux, they know. They know. Next one I got from you, I tell you, Pierre Poilièvre has been making editorialists very happy. Michael Harris from the Tyee. When a coach loses control of the locker room, his team falters, and so it is the ultimate team sport, politics. Poilièvre is no longer in charge. As a result, the Conservative Party of Canada is in danger of unraveling before the eyes of the country. In just a matter of days, the CPC lost 3 members from its parliamentary caucus. That is not the end of the world, but it may well be the beginning of the end. Conservative MP Matt Genereux opted for early retirement, while his 2 colleagues chose to make the longest walk in political life from one side of the House of Commons to the other. A change of team jerseys. First, Chris D'Entremont crossed the floor, quickly followed by Markham Unionville MP Michael Ma. With Ma's decision to join the Liberals, Mark Carney is just 1 seat shy of having a majority government. And let me reiterate, with Matt Genereux not actually being in the House or showing up, de facto, they already have the majority, but they don't have the full one that allows them to change the composition of the committees. That's why they need the extra person, because then that would result in Parliament being prorogued so that a new Speech of the Throne could be read, so that the committees can be formed, and that the Liberals would have the majority and the chair on all of them. Okay, let's see here. So, again, with Ma's decision to join the Liberals, Mark Carney is just 1 seat shy of having a majority government. That would be a crucially important development in the country's national politics and very bad news for Pierre Poilièvre. It would give the Liberals clear legislative sailing for 3 years while consigning the CPC to the status of a token opposition. Poilièvre can only hope that there will be no more defections, but the bleeding is not likely to stop with the departure of D'Entremont and Ma. Government House Leader Stephen McKinnon says that the other Conservative MPs are, quote, extremely frustrated and open to switching sides, count on the Liberals to take full advantage of the restiveness in the CPC caucus. Normally, partisans don't abandon their own ship, so why do the Liberals think that more Conservatives might be ready to defect? The answer is becoming increasingly clear. Deep doubts about the leadership of Pierre Poilièvre. Poilièvre lost the April election, he lost his seat in Carleton, and now he is losing the confidence of his own MPs. Politicians are basically salesmen of hope. Poilièvre isn't making the sale. It should be noted that Poilièvre's dubious leadership isn't the only factor affecting his party's unity. Prime Minister Mark Carney, with what has been described as a steady and practical approach to governing, is attracting a measure of support from Conservatives. The PM has broadened that appeal by adopting key Conservative policies like spiking the consumer carbon tax. Given doubts about Poilièvre's leadership and Carney's increasingly bipartisan appeal, the only reasonable course of action for the beleaguered Conservative leader is to resign. When, not if, another Tory MP bolts to the Liberals, Poilièvre will have delivered a majority to the party he is committed to replacing. Not exactly what the leader of the official opposition is supposed to do. So far, Poilièvre is refusing to see the writing on the political wall. Instead, he has downplayed the defections, blaming them on liberal skullduggery. That is denial in hot pursuit of delusion. The Tory leader is not alone in that approach. CBC House leader Andrew Scheer recently accused the Liberals of, quote, undemocratic distractions, claiming that the government was playing up the defections from his own party to avoid facing criticism over the recent budget. Pierre Poilièvre can bob and weave to his heart's content in an effort to downplay the significance of his shrinking caucus. He can continue to declare that he expects to lead the party into the next federal election and win it. But in a few short weeks, it will be up to others to decide his fate. When Conservatives gather in Calgary to review Poilièvre's leadership, it remains to be seen whether that process will be a hyper-partisan love-in or an honest assessment of how far the party can go with Poilièvre at the helm. This is an existential moment for Conservative Party of Canada. Will the party ignore the recent defections from the Conservative caucus? Will it overlook Poilièvre's fatal attraction to legislative gimmicks and games rather than substance? Will the party rally around the leader who lost an election the party was widely expected to win? Or will it do the soul-searching in the wake of that loss that the progressive Conservative Premier of Nova Scotia, Tim Houston, says is needed? Will the party support a leader who, according to a recent Angus Reid poll, is viewed favorably by just 34% of respondents? The same poll also found that only 58% of those who voted Conservative in the last election want Poilièvre to remain as leader. No one can win a federal election in Canada with those numbers. If the party backs Poilièvre, which is the most likely outcome of the January review, it will spare itself the unpleasant task of dumping the leader. But there are serious problems with opting for the status quo. Does the CPC really want to be seen as the party that rewards failure? No matter how you can decode it. Poilièvre is the leader who lost a federal election and his own seat just a few short months ago. Having a chance at winning is the heart of the matter. As the late John Crosby once observed, unless you win in politics, you don't get to implement the policies you stand for. And there's another hazard for the CPC in extending the Poilièvre era. With such mixed levels of support from the current leader, even more MPs could bolt the party if he remains in the top job. How many defections can the CPC absorb before Canadians conclude that if Poilièvre can't manage his caucus, how can he manage the country? When the coach loses control of the locker room, it's time for a new coach. And some of the stuff is coming from citizens in the Globe and Mail letters to the editor. If Pierre Poilièvre is such a good leader, why can he not put his pride in partisan politics aside and start collaborating with the smartest guy in the room? I'm tired of reading that Mark Carney is stealing conservative ideas. If it's a good idea and makes sense for Canada, why should it not be used? I'm so sick of partisan politics and lifelong politicians. That is why, as a lifelong conservative, I voted to support Mr. Carney. I am sure this is true for a number of Liberal voters in the last election. All politicians, federal, provincial, and municipal, should come together, check their political leanings at the door, and work together for the good of the country and all Canadians. That is what a good leader would do. Brian Lowe from Peterborough, Ontario. Wow. Wow. Okay. The Canadians are speaking up. Another one. I have been a progressive conservative all my life, but at the moment, I'm a great admirer of Mark Carney and his government. His policies are a great start, but we need every politician on board. If we could get a rail line moving to Hudson Bay, small modular reactors built, and LNG Canada's Phase 2 expansion underway, we would begin to become more independent from the United States. Pierre Poilièvre would be well advised to pivot from criticism to some cooperative encouragement. I imagine our politicians working together towards a common goal of Canada strong. What a force we could become. I see a democracy where parties work together with every member offering ideas and constructive criticism. This would be a pivot for sure, but with some readjustment and thinking, we could do it. This is my dream. Can we do it? Why not give it a try? And that's from Bonnie Carter from Barrie, Ontario. So yeah, even Canadians are starting to notice that Pierre might be a little bit past his best before date. If you'll excuse me for a second, kids and cubs, I just need to clear my chest. I'm a little congested. All right, that's a little better. Okay, let's see if I've got anything else for you here before I have to go. The time just flew by this morning. So it's really, time is a really interesting thing because yesterday, when I was nearing the end, I thought that it felt long yesterday because I was tired and I was stumbling all over my words and trying to make things fit. And when I didn't have full capacities in terms of acuity and nimbleness up here because it was a little foggy. And today, I'm looking at the time and it's like, wow, it's just, I could keep going because there's a lot. So yeah, it's just interesting how energy works. So some quick hits before we go. According to the CBC, the Quebec Liberal Party leadership race will officially kick off on January 12, 2026 after Pablo Rodriguez's 6-month tenure. His successor will be chosen on March 14th, 2026. Marc Tanguay, the MNA for La Fontaine, is currently serving as interim leader of the official opposition at the National Assembly and will not run. He resumed the post following Rodriguez's resignation last Thursday. And Mark Blackburn, who is another person who had run last time. So I think Marc Tanguay and Mark Blackburn finished second and third. He also has decided he is not running. So if there's the next leader is going to be somebody completely new that hasn't run before. Candidates who wish to enter the leadership race will have until February 13th to submit their application and must collect 750 signatures from members in good standing. The party also requires a $30,000 deposit to participate. Candidates must not exceed an election spending limit set at $120,000, excluding the deposit. So those are the rules and the terms that so far, the ones that we know. I'm sure that there will be more. But yes, those will be the roles and the terms by which that leadership or contest will be decided. Another little note that came in, this is David Ljunggren from Thomson Reuters, states that the Canadian economy shrank by a greater than expected 0.3% in October, the largest drop in almost 3 years, on weakness in both the goods and services sector, official data showed on Tuesday. Analysts had forecast that growth would dip by 0.2% from September as the economy continues to adjust to U.S. trade measures. Last month, Statistics Canada reported a 0.2% GDP growth for September, and Canada avoided a technical recession largely due to a surge in defense spending. The month-on-month fall was the largest since the 0.3% decline seen in December 2022. The goods sector fell 0.7% in October, while services contracted by 0.2%. But a look ahead at the data from November indicates that gross domestic product would grow by 0.1% in that month, allowing for some recovery. The figures are unlikely to overly concern the Bank of Canada. Governor Tiff Macklin said on December 10th that he expected GDP growth to be weak in the fourth quarter. Money markets are predicting the central bank's next move will be a 25 basis point hike, most likely in July 2026. The manufacturing sector dropped by 1.5%, partly reflecting a 6.9% plunge in machinery output. Wood product manufacturing dropped by 7.3%, the largest decline since April 2020, following additional U.S. tariffs that came into force October 14th. The mining, quarrying, and oil and gas sector contracted by 0.6%, and the construction sector was down by 0.4%, with residential building construction decreasing for the third month in a row, according to Statistics Canada. Services producing industries were hit by a nationwide work stoppage by Canada Post workers and a teacher strike in the province of Alberta. Quote, all told, this is pretty soft momentum to start off Q4, BMO senior economist Robert Kavchik wrote in a note. Given that initial data from November pointed to modest growth for the next month, Kavchik said it looks like, quote, the Canadian economy has some work cut out to avoid another negative print for the final quarter of the year. That will close out a very choppy year for Canadian growth in still choppy fashion. And this is something that I want to bring to your attention, and I'm glad that this Robert Kavchik from BMO, the senior economist, said that, because if you're online, you will see a lot again of the pro-conservative team turning around and said, oh my God, massive drop. This is so terrible. You know, just the same way that they said liberal vote is collapsing. And again, we have to remind everyone that notes that we had been given, cautions that we had been given many, many months ago, is that given the incredible volatility of the economy and how Donald Trump does things randomly, seemingly, to try to change things and affect the economy, that we can expect wild swings in the monthly GDP numbers, probably for the foreseeable future. Right? Down 0.3 one month, up 0.2% another month, and all this type of stuff. But we can expect some swinging. Inventories accumulate, inventories deplete. There's a new tariff coming on. People pre-buy. All that type of stuff. So we can't look. It's almost like with polling. Like this these days, you can't look at these economics 1 month in isolation. Yes, they are reported every month and we bring them to you, but you have to look at them within the broader trend, because, as we said, these numbers are going to swing wildly from month to month. Like I said, these ones were particularly affected by additional tariffs in the lumber sector, which Donald Trump just woke up one day and said, "Yeah, you're getting tariffs." Well, okay. That's going to affect our numbers, right? So we have to make sure, because the numbers are so choppy, right? And the numbers are still coming in a choppy fashion. It makes it very easy to say, oh my God, a 0.3% decline, we're going to hell. And it's like, you need to calm down. You're being too loud, right? And just got to look at these numbers together. Look at 3, 6, 9 months worth of data instead at one time. So I'm going to show you a graph here, and it's going to give you an idea. We said when we're talking here. So if you're, let's see if I can make this a little bigger. There we go. So here, see, this is since 2023, and there've been some times that we have been in the negative here, right? June 2023, we dropped. September 2023, December 2023, November 2024, February 2025. But in this particular year, it's been particularly choppy, right? Up 0.4% in January, down 0.2 in February, up 0.1 in March, down 0.1 in April, down 0.1 in May, pretty much a little bit below zero in June, up 0.5 in July, down 0.1 in August, up 0.2 in September, down 0.3 in October. So we've got months that could be up 0.4 and 0.5 and months that could be down 0.3 in this current year. And if you look at all the past years, right, there's no time that it's gone down more than 0.2, right? And again, you see some up and down, but not so choppy like this, like 0.3, 0.6, and 0. This here is choppy, right? This here is a little more stable. This here is all over the place last year. So, when the economists are saying the numbers are choppy, they're not kidding. They're not kidding. So, cherry picking 1 month of data in this particular economic context is really, really bad idea. They probably will end up in takes that don't age well. And if you are a consumer of information, I would be very, very, very cautious of anybody commenting positively or negatively based on 1 month numbers on the economy only. An overall trend, okay. 1 month numbers only. Avoid those hot takes like the plague in this particular context, because things are just so choppy that you can't just take 1 month's data and then run with it and say that's the trend or that's what it is now. That's not at all what is happening. Again, see Kitland down here. I don't hear them talk enough about the trade surplus we had in September. Of course not, because it doesn't fit into the everything is broken narrative, right? It's just that narrative does not serve them, so they will not engage in it whatsoever. So yeah, just a little bit of a note on that type of stuff here. All right, let's see, is there anything else I wanted to make sure I get in before I go today? Just taking a little look here, making sure. Nope. I think I got to everything I did want to touch today. Again, I always have more that I can bring to you. But, I think it is Christmas Eve and we've already been together 2 beautiful, lovely hours and a half. And you might have things to do today, right? I don't know. Some of you might have places to go or family to entertain or meals to cook or last minute shopping to do or some presents to wrap or things like that. So I will not take any more of your time today. Get some cubs. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show, Santa Beaver Eve edition. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. And if you include something about why it is our content resonates with you, that definitely helps a lot because that's advertising that is priceless and we just cannot buy. So thank you for that. Now, kids and cubs, if you are busy and you are on the go and sometimes don't have time to watch the Daily Beaver Morning Show live with the DamFam, the best DamFam in all of podcasting, do not worry. We have a way for you to remain informed while you take on the day, thanks to the Ray Girl who sponsors our pod page. That would be podpage.com, the True North Eager Beaver, with a hyphen between each one of those words. Or you can scan this QR code right there, and that will bring you to the site. And when you click on subscribe, when we have something off the podcast bandwidth, it will come directly to you. Kids and Cubs also would like to put out an appeal because we do need some help. If there is anyone out there that has some experience with either editing sound files or cleaning them up a little bit, we could use some help. Mr. Grizzly simply does not have the time to do them. I do not know how to do them yet. Hopefully, I will be able to have some time with Mr. Grizzly where he'll be able to teach me and I'll be able to pick that up. But if there's anybody in our audience that does know how to do that and is available to give us a hand a little bit, we would really, really appreciate it because we work very hard on making this product. But if we can't actually get it out to all the audiences that we have, then of course, right, it necessarily decreases our reach, and obviously having a decreased reach is not what we're going for. So if there happens to be anyone who does have some ability with that type of stuff and could potentially offer us some help for a short while in terms of helping us doing it, or also perhaps teaching me if Mr. Grizzly doesn't have the time, all that kind of stuff, I would be very grateful for that assistance. We cannot offer compensation, of course, but hopefully we can find some way to either give you credit or some form of recognition through an honorarium of some kind. We'd have to look at it, but we really need the help because, like I said, we're working hard at making a product, and we just don't have the ability to get the podcast version out so that we can ensure that we keep growing. So any help that you can provide, if there's someone out there who does know how to do that, we would be, I would be very grateful. I can't speak for Mr. Grizzly on this one, but for myself, I can say I would be very grateful. So if you can, please write to us at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com and let yourself be known, and we will definitely follow up because, like I said, the overall goal of this is obviously to keep going and to keep growing, and so I wanted to, we've dug a little bit of a hole for ourselves. We will literally admit, but we do need some help. So if anybody is able to do that, we would definitely be very, very, very grateful, and we thank you. All right, kits and cubs, if you would like to help us in other ways, there are two ways you can do that. The first one is to grab your e-surfboard and make a trip down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. The QR code to bring you there has just appeared. It seems that I'm getting slightly fuzzy again, so let me just fix that. There we go. That should be better. Yeah, much better. So please go to our YouTube page where Kits, Cassie, and Elaine would definitely encourage you to smash with our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. Who doesn't love a good Santa Beaver Eve smash? Right? It's the perfect occasion. If not on Santa Beaver Eve, when are you going to smash? Seriously, kids and cubs. So if you could do that, like, share, subscribe, give our buttons a little tickle, it helps us with the algorithm. So thank you. And if you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, we do have a tip jar. We have a tip jar. And if you would like to add something to it because you like what we do, you love our content, you love us, right? Maybe. I don't know. But you would like to see more of us, and you would like to encourage us to produce more of this content that you enjoy. A little contribution from you would definitely help make that happen. So please go to, QR code just appeared, our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, or you could just scan that QR code that appeared. And if you can make a contribution to the Emergency Hydration Fund, where every day we fight the scourge that is dry beaver, that would be very much appreciated. And we thank you. Now, kids and cubs, if you're doing the Buy Canadian thing, don't worry. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. That's our email address. You can send us a direct bank-to-bank transfer. Your transaction remains 100% Canadian. The U.S. broligarchy does not get a share of your donation, and the share that would have gone to them actually comes to us, which means we get 100% of your donation. We get the whole shebang, which means that your donation goes further. Imagine getting more beaver for your money. It's a steal. Trust me. So, if you would like to contribute, that would definitely please us and help us out a heck of a lot. So, all contributions are very welcome. Thank you so much for all you do to help us and all that you have done to help us throughout the year. It really means the world to us. And trust me, it really comes in handy. There's a lot to do around here. So thank you for your contributions, whether they be financial or in word and helpful suggestions, because sometimes you're not able to contribute financially, and that is okay. Because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. That same email address is where you can send us your thoughts about the show and suggestions for guests. And for those of you who are watching on our YouTube channel, there are a couple of poll questions that have just come up. We're preparing our year-end shows, and there'll be a couple more questions over the next while. If you can, please answer them, because they would help us in the preparation of our shows. Thank you. We're asking you to vote on certain things like Newsmaker of the Year and other stuff like that. And we'll have a couple of other questions as we're closing out the year. So please, if you have the time to answer them, we would really appreciate that. Thanks. Okay, let's see. What else have we got going on? Oh, if you want to reach us via our socials, at True Eager, at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, also on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, our original home. And if you are listening on the YouTube channel, right down here in the comments section, leave us something. And do remember, if you want to keep the conversation going after the show, we do have the DamFam Discord, a wonderful place to be. And of course, you can also reach us on Well, I don't know if you can reach us on Instagram. I'd have to go check that out. But we are also available on Instagram, thanks to Kit Uncover, who has set us up over there. And we are very grateful for that. And if you're finding us through Instagram, well, welcome. Welcome to the Beaver Lodge. Pull up a log and stay a while. I hope you like it here. Okay. Let's see. Because democracy is something that you do, kits and cubs. Remember, well, we have our petition, right? It's House of Commons petition E6821 to encourage members of the House to table a bill that would make it such that Canadian media are owned by Canadians, operated by Canadians, and for the best interest of Canadians. And here you go. In the chat, I just put the link. So you can go there and give it a little signature of yours, because that would be very helpful. And we thank you for doing that. Okay, words of wisdom, kids and cubs. Hey, if you happen to be celebrating and observing the actual Christmas holiday, Hanukkah recently came to an end, the 8 days of Hanukkah. Hope that everybody had wonderful ceremonies. And I remember reading over the weekend about a Persian holiday celebration that happened just a couple of days ago, right around the time of solstice. I think it was for solstice as well, I believe. So anybody that was celebrating solstice in whatever way, I hope your celebrations went well. I think the Persian one was called Yalda. Yalda. which is the longest night of the year. It's marked with poetry and family gatherings and pomegranates, which are symbols of light and renewal. Shabe Yalda Mubarak is the greeting that we give there. So it's, Persians celebrating the winter solstice as a time of rebirth and the victory of light over darkness. And apparently, members of the Filipino community, there's some of them in Canada, have been celebrating the holiday for about 4 months now, because it seems that back in the Philippines, um, through colonization and all that other stuff that happened over there, the Christmas holiday is celebrated by many people there for a much longer time. Trees go up way earlier. And there's a lot of people in Canada who are of Filipino heritage who, celebrated Christmas um, the way that we do, according to the schedule we do, because they're integrating and try to fit in. But now, living in Canada for a little bit, and, we are a multicultural society, and we're very happy with people, being Canadian and whatever else they are as well, and as authentically as they would like to be. And it seems that more and more people in Canada of Filipino heritage are doing the longer celebration here as well. So for all of you who have been celebrating, I hope that your celebrations have been wonderfully joyous. And then we have everybody that's on the Orthodox calendar who will be having their Christmas a little later in the next year. But are still getting ready for the season. So lots of people observing and celebrating, and at this time of year, different races, different cultures, different events. But it is a very celebratory season. So whatever it is you're celebrating, I hope everything is fine. But for those of you who are doing the Christmas thing, because it is Christmas Eve, I hope that you will be surrounded by love and laughter and family, good food, good times. I hope that Santa is very generous, because I am sure you have all been very good boys and girls over the course of the year. And if you happen to be a conservative, Santa may have brought you coal last year. Don't worry, he will not bring you coal this year. You enjoyed that way too much. Yeah. Yeah, Santa had no idea that you guys were going to really, really, really love the coal. So, no lumps of coal for you. He's going to have to figure out something else. And I mean the conservative politicians. I mean, when I say the conservatives, I mean the conservative politicians, particularly the federal ones. I do not mean everyday Canadians here. All right. Yeah, I'm just having some fun with you, kids and cubs. I'm just having some fun. So yes, you know, so all that to say is that my long, lengthy words of wisdom here is just you know, bring all of yourself. Just bring all of yourself to the celebration and enjoy it. Enjoy the time with those you love. Make some happy memories that will last a lifetime. All right, kids and cubs. Hey, and get ready. The World Juniors are going to start too soon, eh? So we have some hockey to get together to watch and some cheering. Think of it as the practice round, our warm up for cheering for Team Canada at the Olympics, right? Okay, and I think that's all I have for you. So it could be a tough world out there, kids and cubs. Be kind to and gentle with yourselves, particularly now, because 'tis the season, right, for kindness and being gentle. All right. And I think we will be seeing you tomorrow, because I believe Mr. Grizzly mentioned that he has the day off and was going to be doing something. We haven't had a chance to coordinate yet, so I do not know if we will be doing something at the same time together, whether we will be doing our own separate things. Hopefully, I will reach out to during the day and be able to nail that down. And if we can do something together, I would rather do that, because I love my Grizzly time, and I know that you do too. And I know that you love Beaver and Grizzly together, because, we have a thing. So, and you guys kind of like that thing. So hopefully we will be able to bring you that tomorrow. But either way, it seems that you're going to get a dose of Grizzly, whether it's with me or without. So please stay tuned. Tomorrow, let's say, something wants to say, let's say start yeah, let's say start of the show at 8. Should I do that? No, you know what? Let's just say we'll do the show as regular because I thought maybe something. No, actually, I'm going to change my mind again. Let's say start of the show at 8. Give everybody a little extra sleep for an hour because I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of things to do, and maybe a couple of people might be up a little late tonight doing some extra cooking. Okay, so we'll do 8 a.m. tomorrow to give people a little extra time. And actually, I can't actually promise that now that I think about it, because if I'm going to coordinate with Mr. Grizzly, maybe he's not available at 8. So scratch that. And just stay with us on our socials, and we'll be able to communicate more what we'll be doing tomorrow once I had a chance to talk to Mr. Grizzly. That probably would be much better. Kid Saucy going, 12, I have kids. That's true. That's true as well, right? So yeah, let me talk to Mr. Grizzly because sometimes I think of doing it really early on Christmas Eve so that we have a little bit of quick time together, and then you can go on to the day. And then sometimes I think of doing it a little later, but then you might already be engaged and involved, and if you're engaged and involved with your loved ones, the last thing we want you to do is to take a break from them to come and spend time with us. So spend time with your family if they're there and you're all gathered. Don't interrupt that. So yeah, I'll talk to Mr. Grizzly, and we will come with a time. We will agree on a time, and we will share it with you. But there will be something tomorrow, regardless. So please stay tuned, and we will see you. All right. I guess that's everything. So it's time for some audience participation. Kids and Cubs, on the count of 3, could you please say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, 3. Ooh, that is very well done, kids and cubs. I cannot deny you that. I just cannot deny you that. So here we go, kids and cubs. A little Christmas or Christmas Eve cock-a-doodle-doo. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs. I got something for you. It's not happy. It's not cheerful, which is kind of weird way to end the show. Hopefully, I'll be able to add a little something so I can end on a positive note. But I would be remiss if I did not mention it because it's a big deal, and a lot of you were talking about it in the chat before we started the show. There are 2 people that we have had as guests on our show in the past who have made the news. Not for a good reason. We are not pleased to report, but we figured that we had to mention it because we don't want to hide stuff, but we had to mention it. A couple of months ago, we mentioned something that there was a account started on a Blue Sky or something that was called the Broke Down AB, which appeared to be playing on the presence of friend of the show, Nate Pike from the Breakdown, Alberta. And there was some interesting things going on that account, and it got pulled. That is sort of related, perhaps tangentially, to this story, but it is mentioned in the story. This is from and I have no idea if I'm pronouncing this right, Tutanha, writing for the Globe and Mail, and the article is called "Former AHS," that's Alberta Health Services, board member obtains rare court order alleging intimidation by podcasters. A former director on the board of Alberta's Health Authority says he has been subject to a campaign of harassment and surveillance because of his role as a potential witness in a wrongful dismissal suit tied to the province's health procurement controversy, court records show. Sandy Edmundstone, who served on the board of Alberta Health Services until January, obtained a rare court order allowing him to search and seize records and electronic devices belonging to two podcasters, David Wallace and James DeFiore, who he alleges have disparaged and harassed him. Those derogatory comments are part of a coordinated campaign funded by someone or some people, Mr. Edmundstone alleges. The search and seizure order is necessary, Mr. Edmundstone successfully argued, to find evidence showing who is bankrolling the podcasters. Mr. Edmundstone alleges that the podcasts are designed to undermine him as a potential witness in the lawsuit former AHF Chief Executive Athana Metsalopoulos filed against the Health Authority and the Alberta government. In January, Ms. Metsalopoulos was fired amid her investigation into improper procurement practices at the Provincial Health Authority. She alleges that she was pressed to shut down the probe by Premier Daniel Smith's government and urged to proceed with deals with certain private companies. The government said it dismissed Ms. Metsalopoulos because she failed to execute its vision for the healthcare system. Let me try that paragraph again. The government said it dismissed I'm having trouble because it says dismissed Miss Metsalopoulos. It's hard. Let's try that again. The government said it dismissed Miss Metsalopoulos because she failed to execute its vision for the healthcare system. Mr. Edmundstone and the rest of the AHS board were dismissed by Miss Smith days after she was fired. The board supported Miss Metsalopoulos' probe and recommended she expand it and share the results with the RCMP. The force is now investigating the matter. The podcasts produced by Mr. Wallace and Mr. DeFiore have repeatedly disparaged Mr. Edmundstone, referring to him as a, quote, scumbag and a, quote, sicko, he alleges. The court application also alleges that Mr. Wallace has made comments about hiring people to dig into Mr. Edmundstone's life. In June, someone took surreptitious photos of Mr. Edmundstone and shared them via text messages, he alleges. Mr. Edmundstone alleges this campaign is connected to the targeting of Globe and Mail reporter Carrie Tate, who has been covering the controversy at Alberta Health Services and was also covertly followed and photographed in the summer. Craig Alcock, a lawyer representing Mr. Wallace and Mr. DeFiore, said his clients, quote, are looking forward to responding to this matter in the courts, but would not comment further. In addition to authorizing Mr. Edmundstone's bid to seize records, Justice Michael Lima of the Court of King's Bench of Alberta also ordered Mr. Wallace and Mr. DeFiore to appear before him for potential contempt of court. Justice Lima said the two men need to convince him that they didn't interfere with the administration of justice by, quote, deterring, harassing, molesting, or influencing a prospective witness. The podcasts hosted by Mr. Wallace and Mr. DeFiore have mocked and insulted people connected to the AHS controversy, including Miss Metsalopoulos, Mr. Edmundstone, Miss Tate, and MLA Peter Guthrie, who resigned from cabinet in protest of Miss Smith's handling of the issue. On an October 13th podcast, Mr. Wallace said that he, quote, employed some professionals to look into Mr. Edmundstone's life. Quote, Sandy, we have something real special for you planned, he said. In the court filings, Mr. Edmundstone said that someone followed him and took photos of him on June 13th and distributed those photos over text message. The sender threatened to share the photos with Mr. Edmundstone's wife, quote, in an attempt to cause personal strife and acrimony, he alleges. The phone number that sent those pictures was, quote, associated with a now defunct X account called @BrokedownAB. Mr. Edmundstone alleges that same anonymous account had threatened in July to expose Miss Tate's sources and posted photos taken of her. Let me try that again. That same anonymous account had threatened in July to expose Miss Tate's sources and posted photos taken of her while she was secretly followed last summer. The court order that Mr. Edmonstone obtained is known as an Anton Pillar injunction, an exceptional measure that allows a private citizen or company to seize records from private property without the other side being notified of the hearing. Judges authorize such orders when they are persuaded that there is a possibility that evidence could be destroyed. The order against Mr. Wallace and Mr. DeFiore says that an independent lawyer would be appointed to supervise the process, that bailiffs and a locksmith could be called to assist, and that the items to be seized could include computer systems, storage devices, and cloud-based accounts. Mr. DeFiore lives in Ontario and Mr. Wallace in Quebec, according to the court documents. The order became public after the documents were unsealed Monday. The records obtained by the Globe do not indicate whether the residences of Mr. Wallace and Mr. DeFiore were searched. Citing an email written by Justice Lima's assistant, the Calgary Herald reported on Tuesday that the order was served on December 16th. The two men were also instructed by Justice Lima to remove all published materials that referred to Mr. Edmonstone within 5 days of receiving the order. Some podcast episodes that were explicitly identified in the court application are no longer promoted on the two men's X accounts. However, other podcasts remain online. For example, one episode that was still posted on Tuesday afternoon featured Mr. Wallace speaking directly to Mr. Edmonstone. Quote, "Sandy, you'll be in jail or disgraced." Mr. Wallace has made allusions to having financial backers who he has not identified. Quote, "I do have employers, I do, and those are people with the financial interest to make sure that the truth, no matter which way it cut, came out," he said on October 19th. On October 24, he added that, quote, "I'm getting paid. I have 3 employers." In his application to the court, Mr. Edmonstone said the order he was seeking was necessary to unmask the, quote, "unnamed person or persons funding the podcasts who he alleged, quote, have financial interests in the health procurement controversy." The work of the two podcasters was mentioned in the Alberta legislature in November. On November 19th, Mr. Guthrie, one of the people attacked by the podcasters, raised a point of order to complain that during question period that Miss Smith had responded to his queries by repeating an insult used against him by Mr. Wallace. Quote, "This was from a podcast with virtually no audience, which has been publishing serious threats and baseless accusations against myself, Athana Metsalopoulos, the former CEO of AHS, and journalist Carrie Tate," Mr. Guthrie said in the legislature. "It's an extremely disturbing and well-funded operation. What is more troubling is that the Premier of Alberta has repeated talking points that originated from this source. I find it astonishing that the Premier would lend credence to an outlet that traffics in harassment and intimidation." Okay, let me be very clear. Without me specifically saying that Dave Wallace and James DeFiore are trafficking in harassment and intimidation. Setting that all aside, judgments about them. Does anyone really have trouble believing that the Premier of Alberta would repeat talking points that originated from a source that trafficked in harassment and intimidation? Really? Countersignal, Western Standard. Really? 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 Okay. At the request of Speaker Rick McIver, the government's Deputy House Leader Dan Williams withdrew the remarks and apologized on behalf of the Premier. In July, when Miss Smith was asked about Miss Tate being targeted by anonymous X accounts and covertly followed, the Premier said, "I condemn it." Oh yes, Danielle, sure you do. So yeah, this is not fun. This is not fun, and I have no knowledge one way or the other about anything going on in this. It's I like I said, I was woke up this morning and was scrolling off my phone, and it just appeared right in my face. There's a picture of Dave Wallace, and oh, I know this guy, and I read the title of the article. I'm going, what the heck? So I have no idea. I mean, based on the article, of course, I have no idea what sort of brought this about. But yeah, the things are happening on that file. Said I don't know exactly what's going on. James and I haven't been speaking for the last little bit. This is James' choice. He has decided to cut communication off. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I'm concerned for them because my personal experiences with them had been positive overall. Um, so yeah, I have no idea why all of this is happening. I have no idea whether or not from Mr. Edmonstone, this is a serious thing, or something that he is using to create an opportunity for himself to deflect. Right, there could be a lot of motivations at play. I don't know. Right, there's just no way to know who's on the right side, who's on the wrong side of this. All I know is that two people with whom I had some type of working relationship at one point are now involved in some type of controversy, and that's the extent. But since we are all familiar with them, I didn't want to give the impression that I would not read the article or would not include it in our programming just because we did work with them in the past. So, full transparency on the show. Even if we've worked with people, if their names pop up in the news in other ways, we will not be the outlet that says, well, we worked for them and our working relationship was good. So we will not share this potentially unflattering news. We're sharing it, and we hope that everything ends up for the better for everyone. We hope that this is just this big misunderstanding and that everything will resolve itself. But welcome to litigation, right? This is a case that's particularly complex and has a lot of players with a lot of interests. And when that happens, things can get a little messy. So hopefully everything gets untangled and and everything gets resolved in a satisfactory manner for everyone, and that nobody is left worse off as a result. But then again, conversely, if something untoward is happening, of course, we should all hope that it will be dealt with appropriately. So, again, none of these allegations have been tested or proven in court yet. For all intents and purposes. However, according to this article, there's at least enough evidence out there that a judge was convinced that there could be some potential for destroying records, enough to grant this type of order that is extremely exceptional. I don't remember the name of it that they called what they called the name of that order, the Anton Pillar injunction, because, like I said, when we're noticing it here, it says here, it allows a private citizen or company to seize records from private property without the other side being notified of the hearings. Judges authorize such orders when they are persuaded that there's a possibility that evidence could be destroyed. So while the broader allegations weren't tested in court, the claim that this evidence existed and that there might be a chance that it could be destroyed and that it needed to be seized without notifying those who own it that it is being seized. Like I said, that is very, very, very exceptional, and I would assume that the burden of proof would have to be rather high in order to be granted such an exceptional injunction. So that portion clearly was tested in court enough to have a judge decide. But everything else, absolutely everything else, and all the other allegations have not been tested. So we have to keep that in mind. But still, like I said, two people with whom we have had association on the show being pursued. And I'm just hoping that everything works out well for everyone, because we bear no one any ill will. And like I said, we always try to first assume the best in people until we are given any clear reason to to conclude the opposite. But we do like to first believe in the best of people. So we've brought you the news. We have no judgments on this. We have no opinions at the moment. Like everyone else here, we're waiting for more to come, and but hoping, really hoping that everything ends up well, because I have a free feeling that the three men mentioned in this story, Mr. DeFiore, Mr. Wallace, and Mr. Edmonstone, I know that two of the three of them have families with children. I have no reason to suspect it would be different for Mr. Edmonstone. And I'm sure they are all wonderful fathers who love their children very, very, very much. And, we wouldn't want families to be disrupted if they absolutely do not have to be. So we are sending our good wishes out into the universe for all of this to be resolved in the best possible way, with minimal damage to anyone. All right. I'm noticing. I am seeing some comments that the chat is very active, and that's all I will say. So that's what I've got for you today, kits and cubs. Let's see. So let's see if we can, given that was a little heavy, let's see if we can leave the show with a little bit of a happy note of some kind. I hadn't prepared for this, so I don't actually have a Canadians who make us proud moment that is positive. Or a bit of happy news for you to end off positively. So I am just going to take a little look at what is usually a reliable source for me in order to be able to get that for you. And I do indeed have some for you. This is according to Louis Daigneault of the Canadian Paralympic Committee. And if we're talking about some Canadians that make us proud here. Callie Erickson and Sierra Smith left no doubt that they are on target to shine at their first Paralympic Winter Games in March, with a double silver medal performance this past weekend to conclude the third stop on the Para-Alpine World Cup circuit. The visually impaired Erickson and his guide Smith placed second in the men's giant slalom on Saturday and took another silver Sunday in the slalom. The Canadians came close to gold in the giant slalom. Erickson and Smith posted the fastest time on the first run, but Giacomo Bertagnoli and his guide from Italy were slightly faster on the second to edge the Canadians by a mere 0.3 seconds. Oh, so close. Quote, really stoked with second place, even though it always stings a bit to go from leading after the first run to finishing second after the second, said Erickson from Kimberley, British Columbia. That's ski racing, though, and it just fuels the motivation for the next giant slalom. Erickson says the giant slalom is going to be a prime event for the pair going into the Milano Cortina Games. Quote, we've been feeling strong in GS the last 2 seasons, and it's great to see that hard work paying off, he said. Johannes Agner and his guide from Austria won the VI slalom clocking at a 2-run time of 1 minute 39 and 10 seconds, with Ericsson and Smith second in 1:41.26. The competition concludes a strong opening trio of World Cups for the Canadians to open the season, totaling 13 medals, 2 gold, 9 silver, and 2 bronze. Ericsson and Smith collected 4 medals over the stretch, as did Paralympians Alexis Guimont of Gatineau, Quebec, which included 2 Super G gold at the season opener in Steinach, Austria, and Molly Jepsen of West Vancouver. Michaela Gosselin of Collingwood, Ontario, added a downhill bronze last week in Santa Caterina, Italy. Quote, the team has put in a huge amount of work over the past month, and we're all looking forward to a well-earned rest, some time with family, and coming into the new year strong and ready to perform at our best, added Ericsson. The World Cup season resumes January 12th to 17th in Saalbach, Austria. The Paralympic Winter Games are March 6th to 15th at Milano Cortina, Italy. So congratulations to our para-athletes in alpine skiing, who are doing a fabulous job and peaking in time for the upcoming Olympics. And now, that is all I have for you. So I will say, amour et bisous. We will see you tomorrow. And like that, with a little Christmas sparkle and fairy dust, I am gone.